Chapter 709. The old man in the red robe announced the rankings quickly. Lin Xian, Murong Qingcheng, Xiao Li, and Shen Yaotian. Lan Bai occupied the top 5 spots. More than 500 people participated in the second round, but only about 200 people passed the second round. The elimination rate was terrifying. I'll give you an hour to rest and recuperate. After an hour, the third round will begin. The disciples who passed the test sat down cross-legged and began to recuperate. Although there was no battle in the second round, the experience in the illusion had greatly depleted their soul and mind. That process was 10 times more tiring than a battle. Therefore, everyone seized the time to recuperate and prepare for the third round. These people were all geniuses and had elixirs with them. An hour was enough for them to recuperate. Soon, these people opened their eyes, and their eyes shined with light as they excitedly looked forward to the third stage. As long as they passed the third round, they would be able to enter Senma College. Once they entered Senma College, their future would be limitless. An hour has passed. The third round will begin now. The old man in the red robe waved his sleeve, and a palm-sized, exquisite pagoda flew out. It spun in the air and gradually enlarged. Finally, it landed on the square with a boom. The pagoda was divided into 7 levels. It was covered in golden thorns and shone brightly. This is the trial pagoda. It is divided into 7 levels. Those who pass the first 3 levels will pass. Now, the third round will begin. As the old man in the red robe finished speaking, the trial pagoda shone brightly. 4 doors opened in 4 directions on the first level. The cultivators who had successfully passed the second stage immediately dashed forward. Then more than 200 people entered the trial pagoda. The third round was an actual battle. Of course, it was not a real battle between the candidates and real martial artists. Instead, it was a virtual battle using illusory array mystic treasures. Do not underestimate this kind of battle because it was more dangerous than a real battle. The opponents' levels were formed according to the martial artist's characteristics. There were 7 levels in the trial pagoda. Passing the first 3 levels was considered a success. More than 200 disciples entered the trial pagoda. Then, the door on the first level closed, and the light dimmed. The trial pagoda stood in the square like a small golden mountain. Soon, everyone realized that the trial tower was different because the first floor showed 234 dots of light. They represented the 234 people who had just entered. Lin Xian followed everyone into the Tower of Trials and appeared in an independent space. In the boundless scarlet plains, the sky was somewhat gloomy, and the wind was howling all around. If Lin Xian did not have a strong will, he would have thought that he had arrived at the scarlet plains. However, he knew that this was all an illusion. Then he was surprised again because he found that the wind shadow sword at his waist was gone, and the high-grade spirit rank inner armor on his body was also gone. What replaced it was an ordinary black armor and a black iron longsword. It seemed like he couldn't use his own treasures and could only use the weapons and armors provided by this space. Lin Xian seemed to understand the rules here. He gave it a try and found that he could use his spiritual energy to form a red lotus armor. In other words, his strength was not affected. However, he quickly removed the red lotus armor. According to his speculation, if he died here, it would only mean that he had failed the test. He would not really die. Therefore, Lin Xian would not miss such a wonderful opportunity to fight. He gave up on the red lotus armor and decided to use the most ordinary weapon to fight. A figure condensed on the scarlet plains in front of him. That person was also wearing black armor and holding a black iron sword. He wore a black mask on his face and looked like a messenger of the netherworld. Lin Xian could tell from the other party's aura that he was a half-step venerable one. Looks like the first floor is easy. Lin Xian smirked. A half-step venerable one was nothing to him. He held an ordinary black iron sword and drew a black bolt of lightning in the air, instantly stabbing the other party's throat. Poof! The black figure fell and turned into spiritual energy, disappearing from this space. However, two more figures soon condensed. A black sword and a black mask. They were both half-step venerable ones. Lin Xian's expression did not change, and he continued to stab with his sword. The black iron sword moved in the air, instantly forming two sword shadows that stabbed towards the two black-clothed martial artists. Buzz, bang, the two martial artists counterattacked, and one of them retreated like a black ghost. The other formed a seal with both hands, condensing an ancient shield in front of him that covered his entire body. Both of them were very fast and completed in an instant. However, Lin Xian's sword was even faster. Poof, poof. The two figures fell and disappeared. Although the two of them counterattacked, the difference in strength between them was too great. They were not Lin Xian's match at all. However, Lin Xian was slightly surprised. That was because he realized that the two half-step venerable ones had begun to make the best adjustments to counter his attack. Lin Xian's sword was very sharp and fast. Therefore, one of them reacted quickly, while the other strengthened his defense. They were changing according to the characteristics of Lin Xian's sword technique. Interesting. I wonder what's going to happen next? Lin Xian was looking forward to it and continued to move forward. Soon, his figure swayed and disappeared from the first level. In the outside world, countless people were staring at the trial tower in the center. They saw that all 234 light spots had arrived at the second level. However, some of those light spots were fast, some were slow, and some were fast. Did they pass the first level? Those people saw the changes in the light spots and discussed in low voices. They realized that after arriving at the second level, the changes in the light spots were even more obvious. A small portion of the light spots only paused for a moment on the second level and immediately rose to the third level. However, most of the light spots remained on the second level. Lin Xian was one of those people at the moment. He had already arrived at the third level. On the second level, there were 3 half-step venerable ones and 4 half-step venerable ones, respectively. For Lin Xian, who had condensed his martial soul, the battle was quickly resolved. On the third level, there were also black-clothed martial artists, but their cultivation had become first-level venerable ones. A venerable was already a powerhouse of a region. That was also the reason why Senma College set the rule that as long as one passed the third level, one would be considered to have completed the trial. Defeated venerable ones were qualified to enter Senma College. However, it was not easy to kill a venerable one. Most people would find it very difficult. Of course, Lin Xian was an exception. He had killed more than one venerable one. Therefore, he passed the third level easily. In the outside world, everyone exclaimed because they realized that a few light spots had quickly arrived at the fourth level. At that moment, most people were still struggling on the second level. They passed the third level so quickly, everyone was shocked and could not believe it. Rumor has it that the opponents on the third level are first-level venerable ones. I didn't expect those people to finish them so quickly. Chapter 7:10. There were a total of 5 people who entered the fourth level first. They were the top 5 in the second round. These 5 people had condensed real martial souls and reached the venerable realm. In addition, they were geniuses and had mastered many secret martial arts, so it was easy for them to pass the third round. However, the fourth round was not so easy because there were 2 level 1 venerables. When 2 venerables joined forces, their attack power was absolutely terrifying. Although Lin Xian had killed venerables before, he had never killed 2 venerables at the same time. Even at the Divine Bird Palace, one person was sent out first. Taking a deep breath, Lin Xian's eyes lit up. He knew that this was the beginning of the real battle. In the other illusory realms, the geniuses also looked solemn as they stared at their opponents. At this time, many light spots had entered the third level, but soon they disappeared. Then, figures were sent out of the trial and landed on the square. These people were pale, and their breathing was chaotic. They were all warriors who had failed on the third level. Not everyone had reached the venerable realm. If one did not have the corresponding strength to face a real venerable, they would only be defeated. The third level was like a natural chasm, blocking the majority of martial artists outside the door. More and more warriors were sent out of the square. The spectators gasped. At the same time, they were even more shocked by the red spots on the fourth level. How powerful were they to be able to pass the third level in such a short time? In the fourth level, Lin Xian's figure was like a ghost. The black iron sword in his hand kept stabbing out like thunder, tearing the air apart. The two venerables on the other side were not weak. They quickly counterattacked. Terrifying light shrouded the surroundings. Every time they collided, the powerful energy produced a shocking explosion. The black iron sword was like a swimming dragon. Lin Xian used the great strength sword soul to fight against the two venerables. The wind whistled, the thunder was crazy, the sky was dark, and the earth was sinking. Fortunately, they were in an illusory realm. Otherwise, the entire square would be destroyed in one blow. Peacock spreading tail. One of the venerables shook his spear. The sky was full of dazzling spear flowers. Silver light flickered like a peacock spreading its feathers in the air. A vast and terrifying aura instantly enveloped Lin Xian. Vermilion bird seal. Lin Xian struck out with his left hand, and a crimson vermilion bird flew out. Its entire body was bathed in fiery light as it soared into the sky. The two forces intertwined and continuously destroyed each other. At this moment, the other supreme expert's attack arrived. Dense blood palm. Bloody light surged and spread 3,000 meters, covering the entire sky. A bright red palm condensed and appeared above Lin Xian's head. Then it crashed down. Starburst. He raised his right hand and stabbed his sword into the sky. The black sword gleam shone brightly as sword chi gathered. Pulling in the spiritual energy in the surroundings, it quickly condensed into a meteor. With a dazzling tail of light, it flew upwards. Boom! The black meteor collided with the blood-red palm. The palm closed its 5 fingers and grabbed it, then quickly smashed it down. Meteor sword chi exploded in midair. Terrifying sword waves swept out in all directions, turning into waves that could be seen by the naked eye. Kill! Lin Xian shouted angrily. He used the illusory demonic steps and rushed towards the two supreme experts. In his hand, the black iron sword was no longer ordinary. Streaks of blazing sword gleams soared into the sky, splitting the void and cutting the ground. They continuously bombarded the two supreme experts in black. Boom, boom, boom. Every strike was fierce and violent to the extreme. Lin Xian was like a madman. The more he fought, the braver he became. In the end, he directly engaged in close combat. The iron sword was like a black, angry dragon. It roared ferociously as the dragon sword soul was activated to the extreme. Poof! Finally, he found an opportunity to stab the spear supreme expert with the sword. The illusion was very realistic. Blood splattered everywhere as the sword slashed down. Woo-woo! After succeeding with one strike, Lin Xian stepped up his attack. The black iron sword turned into a poisonous dragon and chased after the supreme expert. 13 styles of gale. Sword chi surged like a storm and quickly pierced towards the spear supreme expert. The void was pierced, and the terrifying sword gleam was unstoppable. Lin Xian's goal was simple. He wanted to kill one of them first before dealing with the other. Roar! The Spear Supreme Expert was furious. A demonic peacock condensed on the tip of his spear. It was becoming more and more realistic. Poof! As the spear pierced out, the giant peacock attacked as well, making the power of the spear extremely terrifying. The five-colored spear gleam created a demonic shadow in the air. It was like a surging divine light that rushed towards Lin Xian. Clang! 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 Lin Xian swung his iron sword, forming a half-moon sword veil around his body. It was as if the moonlight scattered in front of him to protect him. The five-colored spear gleam was blocked, but the other supreme expert behind him suddenly attacked. His palms were suffused with golden light. Lin Xian tried his best to dodge, but he was still swept in the shoulder. His body immediately smashed into the ground like a meteor. Boom! The ground trembled, and a terrifying deep pit appeared. Whoosh! In the next moment, Lin Xian soared into the sky. His body was covered by a sword veil as he charged again. Although he was injured, he could not rest in this situation. He had to solve it as soon as possible. The dragon sword soul roared, and the entire sky trembled. At this moment, Lin Xian's combat power was raised to the extreme. His entire body was like a divine sword. He stood in the void, and his body was emitting a dazzling light that lit up the dark sky. Lin Xian took a step forward and arrived in front of the Sanguine Palm Venerable in an instant. He swung his iron sword quickly. It was so fast that it was unbelievable. In an instant, it cut the Sanguine Palm Venerable's shoulder, revealing his terrifying white bones. Vermilion Bird Seal. At the same time, he formed a seal with his left palm and hit the Sanguine Palm Venerable's hand, sending him flying. The iron sword fell again like a black lightning bolt, cutting the Sanguine Palm Venerable apart. The first supreme expert was destroyed. Roar! The long spear Venerable roared and charged again with his spear. Squall style. Lin Xian raised his iron sword in the air and made a killing move. A gale blew, and a red storm blew on the Sanguine Plain, as if it was going to tear the world apart. The mountain peak was shattered, and the trees were blown away. Everything was destroyed wherever the red storm passed. In an instant, the long spear Venerable was covered and let out a miserable cry. The red storm was everywhere within 100-meter radius, and the entire ground caved in. However, before the power disappeared, Lin Xian's figure turned into a ray of light and disappeared. In the other illusory spaces, Murong Qingqing's jade-like palms shone, as if they were the hands of God. She crushed a Venerable with one palm. Following that, she changed her palm into a finger and pointed it out. A thick finger light was like a flood dragon, and it was extremely terrifying. Soon, her figure also disappeared from the 4th level. The other people were still fighting bitterly. In the outside world, everyone waited patiently. Suddenly, they seemed to have noticed something and stood up excitedly. The 5th level. Someone appeared on the 5th level. 2. There are 2 of them. Everyone was in an uproar. The difficulty of each level of the trial tower increased exponentially, and the 4th level was 10 times more difficult than the 3rd level. This was something that everyone knew. However, in such a short period of time, 2 people had successfully broken through. It was too unbelievable. Chapter 711. The changes in the trial tower caused a sensation among the crowd. 2 people entered the 5th level. One of them must be Murong Qingqing. Who is the other one? He's also so powerful. Everyone recognized Murong Qingqing's strength, but the other person was beyond their expectations. I guess it's Shun Yaotian. He's also a genius and comes from the House of Kings. His strength and trump cards are definitely extraordinary. Only he can stand shoulder to shoulder with Murong Qingqing. House of Kings. Everyone was shocked. Then they echoed. It was very likely I wonder if they can pass the 5th level? Someone said worriedly. It's said that the opponents on the 5th level are 2nd Heaven Venerables. I'm afraid it'll be very difficult to pass the 5th level. Murong Qingcheng will definitely pass, but the other one might not. Everyone discussed and expressed their own opinions. The official disciples in the square were even more shocked. The strength of the disciples participating in the assessment this time was beyond their expectations, especially the 2 on the 5th level. They could be said to be terrifying. The group of elders from the academy were very satisfied. They stared at the trial tower with smiles. On the 5th level, Lin Xian was in great danger. This was the first time he faced a 2nd Heaven Venerable's head-on. Every attack from the other party made his blood boil and his body tremble. Was this the power of a 2nd Heaven Venerables? Lin Xian was shocked. He only managed to fight against a 2nd Heaven Venerables because he had an offensive saint technique like the Great Dragon Sword Soul. However, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Fortunately, the opponent was not a real human, but a simulation of spiritual power. Therefore, Lin Xian was still confident that he could hold on for a while. Gale style, the iron sword slashed out, and a red storm swept through the world, enveloping the opponent. The black-clothed Venerable's spiritual power jumped and formed an armor to resist the red storm. At the same time, he punched out with his fist, which smashed toward Lin Xian like a mountain. Once a 2nd Heaven Venerables entered, their speed, strength, and defense would all surpass a 1st Heaven Venerables. Hence, under normal circumstances, a 1st level Venerable would not be able to contend against a 2nd level Venerable. Fortunately, Lin Xian had many secret techniques as well as a powerful martial skill sword soul, so he was able to deal with them for a while. Lin Xian's figure turned into a sword light as he tried his best to dodge and engage in a fierce battle with the black-clothed Venerable. In another illusory realm, Murong Qingcheng was also battling a 2nd level Venerable. The energy in the sky surged violently as countless afterimages flew around. A terrifying aura spread out between heaven and earth. Murong Qingcheng was like a fairy descending from the heavens. She stepped on a jade lotus platform, and lotus flowers danced around her body. The sparkling and translucent petals spun rapidly, sometimes defending, sometimes attacking. Every time they collided, there would be a thunderous sound. Terrifying energy tore through the void and roared incessantly. Although Murong Qingcheng was at a disadvantage, he did not show any signs of losing. While Lin Xian and Murong Qingcheng were fighting against the 2nd Heaven Honorable Realm, the other geniuses had also passed the test of the 4th level and reached the 5th level. However, when they reached the 6th level, things did not go so smoothly for them. The might of a 2nd Heaven Venerate had completely suppressed them, causing them to be severely injured right from the start. Shun Yaotian's 108 starry halos shone brightly, making him look like a god of war. When he punched out, starry light filled the sky as countless meteorite-like fists struck the ground. However, this terrifying attack was shattered by the palm of the black-clothed Venerable. Shun Yaotian retreated as blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His eyes were filled with shock. However, as a genius and a disciple of the House of Kings, he would not be defeated so easily. He waved his hands and a starry sky map appeared above him. It was extremely vast and shone with a mysterious light. Shun Yaotian held the starry sky map and charged toward the 2nd Heaven Honorable Realm like a god of war. However, this terrifying attack was still sent flying by his opponent. It was not that he was weak, but that his opponent was too strong. The starry sky map dimmed and disappeared. Shun Yaotian spat out blood and was sent flying. On the other side, Shao Li was like a saber demon. He held a black iron saber in his hand and swung it wildly. Dazzling saber radiance swept out in all directions like waves, causing the entire void to boil. However, his opponent was too strong. The terrifying suppression made him feel helpless. A terrifying fist filled the entire sky and instantly shattered the saber radiance in the sky. At the same time, it charged toward Xiao Li. Boom! Xiao Li was hit hard and fell to the ground. In the last illusion, the blue and white palm kept changing seals. Huge poisonous scorpions, spiders, pythons, and all sorts of poisonous creatures flew out from the void and charged forward quickly. At the same time, he also condensed a poisonous cloud and floated over quickly. The surrounding air dimmed, and purplish-gray poisonous gas filled the air. The surrounding plants and trees withered and died. Even the ground turned yellow, as if it had lost its vitality. The terrifying poisonous gas swept through the entire space. The poisonous gas was too powerful. Those below the supremacy realm would definitely die upon contact. Even a first-level supremacy might not be able to resist it. However, his opponent was a second-level supremacy and was extremely powerful. Therefore, even though the blue and white palm had powerful poison, he was still defeated. Soon, the trial tower flickered, and 3 figures were sent out of the square. When the crowd outside saw that 5 light spots had gathered on the 5th floor, they exclaimed excitedly. However, they soon realized that 3 of the light spots were quickly dimming and disappearing. In the end, a white light flashed, and 3 figures appeared in the square. Did he fail? The crowd was puzzled. Then they heaved a sigh of relief. There was a huge difference between each level of the supremacy realm. Even prodigies would find it difficult to fight someone of a higher level. The trial tower restricts weapons. I'm afraid that these prodigies' strength has been reduced. Many martial artists analyzed. They knew that these prodigies would be even stronger in the real world. This was because they definitely had heaven-defying weapons in their hands that could increase their combat strength by several times. No, that's Shen Yaotian. Why is he out too? He was defeated too? Then who's still inside? The crowd was shocked. They realized that the situation was different from what they had expected. Lan Bai, Xiao Li. Soon, the crowd recognized the 3 figures that had been sent out. Then they gasped. The ones still on the 5th floor are Morong Qingcheng and Lin Xian. Lin Xian, after Shen Yaotian understood the situation, his face was terrifyingly gloomy. He stared at the trial tower with a murderous look in his eyes. He was shocked that Lin Xian had not come out yet. Humph, he must have just gone in. Just wait and see. He'll come out soon. Shen Yaotian comforted himself. The results of the 3rd round were based on how long one stayed in the trial tower. For example, on the 5th floor, if one stayed for 1 minute and the other party stayed for 2 minutes, the one who stayed for 2 minutes would naturally be ranked higher. Although Shen Yaotian had been sent out early, he still had a glimmer of hope. Lin Xian had just entered the 5th floor. If that was the case, then the situation was not too bad. According to his analysis, Lin Xian would definitely fail and be sent out soon. The surrounding people were also whispering because they did not know if Lin Xian was one of the 2 light spots that had entered first or later. However, no matter what, Lin Xian's strength was already very strong and had shocked everyone. Chapter 7:12. On the 5th level of the trial tower, Lin Xian was like a sword god, surrounded by a huge sword chi. He stood in the air with a solemn expression. It was a rare experience to fight against a 2nd-level supremacy without any scruples. Therefore, in order to prolong the battle, Lin Xian activated the Red Lotus armor. The bright red armor covered his entire body, and the red lotus on it swayed, as if it was alive. With the Red Lotus armor, Lin Xian's defense increased by a lot, and it was not as difficult to deal with him as before. At the same time, He abandoned the black iron sword and held the sword of massacre and sword of nirvana with both hands. With the two auras surrounding him, Lin Xian was like the god of slaughter from hell as he stepped through the air. He did not hold back in this battle. Kill! With a furious roar, his body was like a bolt of lightning. He took a step forward and arrived in front of the black-clothed supremacy in an instant. The two swords in his hands quickly stabbed out. The sword of massacre and sword of nirvana were very powerful. In fact, they were not just sword intents, but had their own concepts. Although the intent of massacre and intent of nirvana were not complete, they still had their own charm. The black sword chi surged with an aura of death and nirvana. It covered half of the sky, and wherever it passed, the vegetation would wither. Although the black-clothed supremacy was not a real life, he was still formed by spiritual power. This sword also affected him, and his body became a little dim. However, as a second-level supremacy, he was not so easily killed. His palm was like a knife. When it fell, the entire space seemed to be cut open, and the aura of nirvana was also ruthlessly cut off. At this moment, the bright red long sword had already slashed down, accompanied by the sea of blood that filled the sky. The crazy murderous aura swept in all directions, causing the entire sky to turn scarlet. At this moment, there seemed to be only one sound left in the world, and that was to kill. Kill, kill, kill to your heart's content. The bright red, long sword slashed down mercilessly from the sky. Clang! The black-clothed supremacy did not have any emotions. He was like a killing machine. He threw a punch which collided with the sword and made a shocking sound. The sea of blood in the sky surged and was sent flying. Lin Xian was hit, and his qi and blood surged. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Meanwhile, the other party was similarly blasted backwards, causing the void to collapse. If someone else was here, they would definitely cry out in surprise. Lin Xian had actually pushed a second-rank venerable master away. This was unbelievable. However, Lin Xian's expression was extremely solemn because he discovered that the other party did not suffer any substantial damage. It seemed like he had no choice but to combine the two swords. In the next moment, Lin Xian clasped his hands together. The pitch-black long sword and the blood-red sword in his hands fused into a red-black demonic sword. Death and slaughter fused together to form a true demonic sword. At the same time, Lin Xian used a killer move, falling stars from heaven. This move was extremely powerful. It was a martial skill that Lin Xian had been practicing ever since he started cultivating. Once he used it, no one had ever been able to dodge it. His body turned into a stream of light. Lin Xian held the demon sword in his hand and quickly stabbed forward. It was too fast. Lin Xian was so fast that he didn't even leave a trace in the sky. Lin Xian had already arrived in front of the black-robed venerable. Puff! Finally, it pierced through the man's armor and into his chest. Blood spurted out in all directions. The black-robed venerable roared angrily. He waved his palms and slammed them heavily into Lin Xian's chest, sending him flying. Boom! Lin Xian was hit head-on. He was sent flying thousands of feet away and crashed into a huge mountain. In an instant, the huge mountain crumbled, forming countless rocks that drowned him. Boom! In the next moment, countless huge sword chi rushed out and sliced the huge mountain apart, forming a spacious area. Lin Xian, on the other hand, crawled up from the rubble, gasping for breath and coughing out large amounts of blood. Countless cracks appeared on the red lotus armor in front of his chest like a spider web. Especially on his chest, there were 2 deep palm prints. This palm was too terrifying. Several of Lin Xian's ribs were broken, and his internal organs were severely damaged. Fortunately, he had the red lotus armor. Otherwise, this palm would have blown him up. Damn it, what a troublesome fellow. Lin Xian spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were cold. On the other side, the black-robed venerable was not in a good state either. The great dragon sword soul was too powerful. Lin Xian's attack was enough to break through his defense. Moreover, the red-black demonic sword was even more strange. Coupled with the powerful martial technique, falling stars, he was severely injured. A red-black demonic sword was stabbed into his chest. It emitted a murderous and deathly aura that constantly attacked his body. Roar! The black-robed venerable's hair was disheveled. He roared angrily. A powerful force burst out from his body and sent the demonic sword flying. The wound on his chest could not be healed immediately. That was the remnant aura of the great dragon sword soul. Unless there was a special method, it would be difficult to remove the aura of the great dragon sword soul in a short period of time. The black-robed venerable used his method to madly absorb the surrounding spiritual qi to suppress his injuries. In the distance, Lin Xian also roared. He opened his mouth and sucked in the air. The spiritual qi in the air surged, forming a mighty waterfall of spiritual qi that was thousands of meters long. It quickly entered Lin Xian's body. Then, he used the longevity incantation and displayed his powerful recovery ability to quickly repair the injuries on his body. In the next moment, a dazzling light burst out from his eyes. His hands danced. Golden lightning danced in his left hand and condensed into a golden bow. The wind concept in his right hand quickly circulated and formed a green arrow. Ancient secret art, clear wind bow. In the next moment, the power of wind and thunder surged in the void. The terrifying attack was like a shocking rainbow, leaving behind afterimages of wind and thunder. Like afterimages of wind and thunder, it instantly pierced toward the black-robed venerable. Boom! The terrifying power not only interrupted the black-robed venerable's recovery, but it also worsened his injuries. In the next moment, Lin Xian's injuries were mostly healed. His expression was cold. Wearing a bright red armor, he slowly walked over like a fiend god. On the armor, the original red color mixed with the flowing blood. It looked even more demonic. The red lotus seemed to be coming to life. His eyes were like lightning. The great dragon sword soul on Lin Xian's body surged, forming a terrifying force, as if it was about to awaken. Boom! Boom! With every step Lin Xian took, the ground would tremble. It was as if the one walking was not Lin Xian, but an ancient giant. An oppressive and heavy aura filled the entire space, making it difficult for people to breathe. Although the black-robed venerable was not a real person, he could still feel the oppressive aura at this moment. He roared angrily, and his body also emitted a terrifying aura to fight back. However, he was injured, and the great dragon sword soul in his body was destroyed. In addition, Lin Xian was too strong now. For a moment, he was at a disadvantage. If someone knew about this, their jaws would definitely drop. Lin Xian was actually suppressing a second-stage venerable. Boom, boom. With every step Lin Xian took, his aura became stronger. The great dragon sword soul also roared to the sky. Then, a dragon-shaped sword shadow condensed in front of him. It was illusory at first, but as the great dragon sword soul roared, it became more and more real. Seeing the dragon-shaped sword shadow, the black-robed venerable roared uneasily. It was as if he was instinctively afraid of it. Chapter 713. In the next moment, he ignored his injuries and attacked in a frenzy. A terrifying aura condensed and formed a fist that smashed towards Lin Xian. Above the fist, there was a wolf head formed by spiritual energy. It roared ferociously and carried the aura of a martial soul. This attack was enough to easily kill a first-rank honorable martial artist. However, Lin Xian did not dodge. He slowly held the dragon-shaped sword in front of him. The energy in his body roared and surged into the dragon-shaped sword. Lin Xian's heart thumped wildly. He felt as though he was being sucked dry. Feeling the loss of energy in his body, Lin Xian did not hesitate and quickly swung the dragon-shaped sword. Buzz! The sword chi was dazzling. It was as though a real dragon was swimming in the void. The terrifying energy cut the entire sky in half. Boom! The real dragon-shaped sword collided with the wolf-head fist. The terrifying energy instantly filled the entire space. Light flashed, and a storm swept across, drowning everything. The light flickered, and the space swayed. A gust of wind came from nowhere and blew away the dust and fog. Lin Xian knelt on one knee with a sword in hand. He was panting, and his face was unusually pale. In front of him, the ground was split open. The terrifying crack extended. As far as the eye could see, the aura of the black-shirt honorable martial artist had disappeared. Lin Xian's mouth twitched. The attack, just now, was a sword shadow formed by the great dragon sword soul. It was extremely terrifying. However, the energy consumption was even more shocking. Lin Xian was almost sucked dry. He originally thought that the meteor shower was the most energy-consuming move. He did not expect it to be so lacking compared to the dragon-shaped sword shadow. He sat down cross-legged and wanted to recover. At this moment, a white light flashed, and Lin Xian left the 5th level. At the same time, in another illusory space, Murong Qingcheng was sweating profusely. Behind her, a human figure gradually disappeared. In front of her was the black-shirt honorable martial artist who had collapsed. With a flash of white light, she also left the 5th level. In the outside world, the crowd was in an uproar. They saw the 2 light spots on the 5th level disappear at almost the same time and appear on the 6th level. They passed. They passed. Countless people went crazy. Even the official disciples were stunned and could not believe it. Yan Qingyang's face was gloomy and he was furious. The woman he liked had entered the 6th level with his love rival. This made him feel an indescribable anger. At the same time, he also felt a trace of fear towards Lin Xian. One had to know that the 5th level was the 2nd level of the Venerable Realm, yet the other party had actually been able to break through. This was truly beyond his expectations. However, he was not afraid because he had also passed the 5th level back then. Moreover, the years of training at Senma College had made him even stronger. Therefore, he was confident in dealing with Lin Xian. Shen Yaotian was stunned. Impossible! This is impossible! He roared in his heart, unable to accept this fact. This was a huge blow to him. He had entered the 5th level and hadn't persevered for long before coming out, yet the other party had actually passed. The gap between them was self-evident. For a moment, all kinds of disappointment and frustration welled up in his heart. Shen Yaotian felt his vision darken, and he almost fainted from anger. Tower of Trials, 6th floor. The corner of Lin Xian's mouth twitched as he smiled helplessly. In front of him, 2 2nd-level venerables stood proudly with cold expressions. Furthermore, his spiritual power was depleted, and he was injured. It would be good if he could fight with half of his strength. Moreover, the 2 2nd-level venerables teaming up was 10 times more difficult than the 5th level. Even if Lin Xian was at his peak, it would be impossible for him to pass, let alone now that he was severely injured and exhausted. However, as a swordsman, it was not his style to give up without a fight. Therefore, in this battle, even if he had to bleed to the last drop of blood, he would give it his all. With a long sword in hand, Lin Xian walked up step by step. On the other side, Murong Qingcheng was also under great threat. Behind her, an illusory figure flickered and emitted a terrifying aura, as if it had traveled through time and space from the ancient times. However, The two venerables teaming up was too powerful. Even if Morong Qingcheng was extremely powerful, she was no match for them. However, in the next moment, a strange inscription flashed between her eyebrows. It emitted a dazzling light, and a terrifying power was emitted. That power made the two venerables feel uneasy. However, Morong Qingcheng thought for a moment and finally hid the mysterious inscription. She did not attack again. Outside, everyone waited anxiously, their eyes fixed on the 6th level of the trial tower. In the next moment, the two light spots disappeared. Then a white light flashed, and two figures appeared in the square. They're out. They're finally out. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. They knew that the two of them had failed the 6th challenge. However, this was already very terrifying. One had to know that the 6th level was guarded by 2 2nd-level venerables. It would be abnormal if the two of them really succeeded. Morong Qingcheng's white clothes were whiter than snow. Although her aura was a little chaotic and weak, it could not hide her beautiful posture. As for Lin Xian, he immediately sat cross-legged in the square as soon as he appeared. His hands formed a seal, as if he had entered a cultivation state. The two figures attracted everyone's attention, especially Morong Qingcheng. Most of the male cultivators were looking at her. Morong Qingcheng had long been accustomed to the burning gazes of the surrounding cultivators. Ever since she was born, she had been surrounded by countless gazes like this. Until now, she had completely ignored them. Perhaps only someone like Lin Xian, who had a normal demeanor and was somewhat resistant, could arouse her interest. Morong Qingcheng tilted her head slightly and looked at Lin Xian. Then a trace of surprise appeared on her beautiful face. Is he about to break through? Sure enough, a powerful aura rose from Lin Xian's body. A huge spirit energy vortex appeared above his head. Countless amounts of spirit energy flowed into Lin Xian's body like an upside-down galaxy. In the next moment, Lin Xian opened his eyes. His gaze was like two sword rays, vast and mighty, piercing through the void. His body was filled with a powerful force. However, everyone's eyes were filled with doubt, which then turned into shock. How is this possible? The limit of the spirit detecting realm. Heavens, how is this possible? Everyone was stunned. They did not expect Lin Xian to only be at the limit of the spirit detecting realm. Furthermore, this cultivation had just broken through. Many people's minds went blank. They could not believe the facts in front of them. Not only them, but everyone was also stunned. Previously, Lin Xian had used a special method to hide his cultivation. Coupled with the fluctuations of his martial soul, everyone thought that he was a young martial artist who had reached the venerable realm. Now, they realized that Lin Xian's cultivation was only at the peak of the spirit-detecting realm. Such a cultivation was too ordinary, but he had passed the 5th level of the trial. He had even lasted long enough on the 6th level to be teleported out together with Morong Qingcheng. How is this possible? Everyone felt like their heads were about to explode. Martial soul. He must have a martial soul. He's a fake venerable one. Everyone discussed in shock. Martial artists who had condensed a martial soul but had not reached the venerable realm were called fake venerable ones. They had seen such venerable ones before, but no one was as powerful as Lin Xian. The academy elders were also shocked. This little guy is too unexpected. It's really rare for a fake venerable one to reach this level. Chapter 7:14. Congratulations, you've broken through again. Morong Qingcheng smiled at Lin Xian. This smile stunned everyone. It was as if the entire world had become incomparably beautiful. It's all right. I was just lucky. Lin Xian shrugged. Everyone was startled awake. They were jealous and envious. They wished they could transform into Lin Xian and chat with Morong Qingcheng. The eyes of Yan Qingyang, Shen Yaotian, and the rest were spitting fire. Murderous intent surged from their bodies as they wished they could tear Lin Xian apart, especially Yan Qingyang. His eyes were cold as he roared in his heart, "How dare a fake, honorable warrior steal my woman? Kid, I'll teach you how to behave after entering the school." With so many people and elders present, he could not do anything to Lin Xian. However, as long as Lin Xian entered the school, he would have plenty of chances. Lin Xian and Morong Qingcheng walked to the edge of the crowd, waiting for the end of the third round. 2 hours later, all the light spots in the Tower of Trials disappeared. Everyone was transported out. At this point, the 3 rounds of assessment had ended. The entrance exam also came to an end. The martial artists who passed the 3 rounds were in high spirits. They danced with joy because they could finally enter Senma College. As for the strong disciples who were ranked at the top, they began to calculate their rankings. "What reward will you exchange for this time?" Morong Qingcheng looked at Lin Xian. "Reward? What reward? What's there?" Lin Xian was puzzled. "You don't know?" Morong Qingcheng said, "The top 10 will all receive admission rewards. The top 3 will receive even more generous rewards. They will probably be rewarded with martial arts." "Martial arts? What level?" Lin Xian sighed in his heart. Yu Fei had the ability to gather information, but compared to Morong Qingcheng, he was much weaker. It seemed that he still had a long way to go before he could establish his own power. Half-Earth rank martial arts. It was passed down from ancient times. Its power is not inferior to the current Earth rank martial arts. Half-Earth tier martial art. Lin Xian's eyes flashed. He didn't expect to receive such a big gift right after entering the academy. "Now, I'll announce the rankings of this assessment." Hearing the red-robed old man's words, the surrounding martial artists couldn't help but become excited. Those martial artists who had passed the test also pricked up their ears. In fact, they had already estimated the rankings in private. After all, the rankings of the 3 stages were there. No matter how they ranked, the top 3 would still be the same people. The ranking this time is a little special. There are 2 people in first place. 2 people. Hearing this, everyone trembled and listened carefully. Lin Xian and Morong Qingcheng were first in the first 2 stages, and they both persisted until the end of the 3rd stage. Therefore, their rankings are the same. They are both first. Whoosh! Everyone was in an uproar. Even though they had made some calculations in private before, they were still incomparably shocked when the Academy Elder announced it. This was a little different from their predictions. They thought that Lin Xian would be able to get 2nd or 3rd place, but they didn't expect him to be first. They knew that Morong Qingcheng was powerful and outstanding, but this was the first time Lin Xian appeared in front of them. He was also a fake, honorable martial artist. To be able to get first place this time was beyond everyone's expectations. "Humph!" Shen Yaotian snorted coldly. His handsome face couldn't be any darker. "The 3rd place is Shaoli," the red-robed old man said loudly again. Because it was a double first place, there was no 2nd place. The 3rd place was obtained by Shaoli, which was well-deserved. After the announcement of the top 3, many people sighed, because the rewards for the top 3 were very generous. Not only were there elixirs, but there were also some half-Earth rank martial arts. That was the most tempting thing. Shen Yaotian couldn't get into the top 3. He was so angry that his whole body trembled. Firstly, it was because of the half-Earth rank martial arts. Furthermore, he felt that he had lost face. One had to know that he came from the House of Kings and had always been pursuing Morong Qingcheng. He thought that he was the only one who was worthy of her. But now, Lin Xian had surpassed him. Moreover, Morong Qingcheng's attitude towards Lin Xian was somewhat ambiguous. This undoubtedly deeply provoked him. "Boy, wait until the freshman competition. I'll let you know how powerful I am." Shen Yaotian gritted his teeth. Next, the red-robed old man announced the rankings of the next few people. Among them, Shen Yaotian was ranked 4th, and the 5th was the youth named Lon Bai who used poison. After the rankings were announced, the red-robed old man said again, "I'll give you 1 day to deal with all kinds of things. Gather here tomorrow morning." Yes, everyone was excited, and then left. Brother Xian, congratulations. Yu Fei ran overexcitedly. He knew that Lin Xian was powerful, but he didn't expect him to get first place. "Let's go. We'll talk when we get back." Lin Xian greeted Morong Qingqing and Xiao Li, then left with Yu Fei. Lin Xian and Yu Fei didn't return to the storm courtyard. Instead, they went to their new residence in Sky Pool City. It was a small courtyard. Although it wasn't big, it was convenient and quiet. Moreover, it wasn't cheap to buy a courtyard in a place like Sky Pool City. After entering the courtyard, Lin Xian asked the Crimson Dragon to set up a defensive array around the courtyard to ensure Yu Fei's safety. The Crimson Dragon was an expert in setting up the array, so he quickly finished setting it up. Those below the Venerable Realm couldn't break it at all. Even a first-level Venerable would need to spend some effort to break it. For Yu Fei, it was enough. Then Lin Xian took out some pills and spirit wine that he had refined, as well as some spirit rank cultivation techniques and artifacts, and threw them to Yu Fei. "Right now, you should focus on your cultivation and increase your strength," Lin Xian said. "Thank you, Brother Xian." Yu Fei looked at the things on the ground and was very excited. "Brother Xian, what else do you need me to do?" "4 missions. First, find out why the Palace of War is closed. Second, find out the terrain and power situation of Sky Pool City. Third, organize the information about the Azure Red Society, their headquarters and branches, the more detailed the better. Fourth, find out if there are any weapon refining grandmasters in the lower blood realm. If there are, remember the information." These 4 missions were related to his future plans, so Lin Xian handed them to Yu Fei. "Don't worry, Brother Xian." Yu Fei patted his chest and promised. Lin Xian nodded. "I just entered the academy, so I might not come out for a while. So you can only rely on yourself during this period of time. If there's any trouble, inject your spirit energy into this jade pendant, and I'll know." Lin Xian handed over another jade pendant. This jade pendant was also made by the Crimson Dragon. There was an information transmission array inside. Once spirit energy was injected, the other party would know. Yu Fei took it and carefully put it away. Then, the Crimson Dragon created an array disk that allowed Yu Fei to control the array. "Oh, right, Brother Xian. Since you want to develop your power, what do you want to name it?" "Name." Lin Xian rubbed his chin. "Let's call it Dragon Sword Pavilion." He rose up with the great Dragon Sword spirit, so he took this name. Dragon Sword Pavilion. Good name. Yu Fei clapped his hands. "I believe that this name will spread throughout the entire blood realm." The next day, Lin Xian left the courtyard and headed to the plaza of Sky Pool City. When he arrived, there were already quite a few people in the plaza. There were more than 1,000 people who participated in the exam yesterday, but only 138 people succeeded in the end. The elimination rate was very terrifying. Soon, more than 100 people gathered. At this time, the red-robed elder appeared again. "Little fellows, if you have the strength, then go all out to fight for the rankings." The red-robed old man smiled and said, "Because the rankings are related to your spiritual value points." Spiritual value points? Lin Xian was also puzzled. Spiritual value points are very important. We'll talk about the details later. The red-robed elder smiled mysteriously. At the side, Morong Qingqing opened her red lips and said, "It is said that spiritual value points can be exchanged for all cultivation resources. Even Earth rank martial arts and half Earth rank treasures can be exchanged for. Therefore, in Senma College, other than life, spiritual value points are the most important. Exchange for Earth rank martial arts. Lin Xian was shocked. He knew how precious and powerful Earth rank martial arts were. He had exchanged his life for Earth rank martial arts. However, he did not expect that he could exchange for them here. As expected of Senma College, it was indeed domineering. Then what are the strength of those fellows on the mysterious venerable ranking? Lin Xian asked again. It is very difficult for ordinary first heaven venerables to be on the ranking, unless they are at the peak of the first heaven venerable tier. Murong Qingqing's expression was solemn. It is said that the top 10 are all at the peak of the second heaven venerable tier. Even the first is a third heaven venerable tier. Third heaven. Lin Xian was surprised. There are actually students who have reached the third heaven. They are really powerful. One had to know that it was very difficult to advance in the venerable realm. For example, in the San region, the elders of a family were first heaven venerables. A second heaven venerable tier could probably suppress an area. However, there were actually third heaven venerables here. Moreover, they were students. That meant that they were not too old. It was very likely that they were very young. Number 1. Lin Xian looked at the mysterious venerable ranking. He saw that the number 1 name on the black stone tablet was shining with a golden light. Dugu Aotian. At that moment, the others saw this name as well and immediately trembled. It was as if a heavy force was pressing down on their heads, making it impossible for them to turn around. Looks like we have to enter the venerable realm as soon as possible. Lin Xian felt a sense of pressure. Everyone left and followed the red-robed elder. However, they all had a common goal in their hearts, and that was the mysterious venerable ranking. Under the red-robed elder's lead, they arrived in front of a majestic hall. The hall was magnificent, like a huge city. There were countless obscure lights flickering around it. The power that was unconsciously released made Lin Xian and the others tremble. What a terrifying formation! Lin Xian exclaimed. His soul power was outstanding, so he could feel the terror within. This hall was probably very important. Otherwise, it would be impossible to set up such a powerful formation. Lin Xian guessed. The Four Spirits Extermination Formation. I didn't expect it to be such a formation, the Crimson Dragon exclaimed. You know it? Lin Xian asked. Of course, this formation is extremely terrifying. Even a king would not dare to enter it, the Crimson Dragon said. It can trap a king. Lin Xian was shocked. He knew that the formation was powerful, but he did not expect it to be this powerful. The red-robed elder brought Lin Xian and the others to the front of the hall. There were already many people gathered there. Lin Xian looked around and realized that there were 3 teams led by 3 elders. Are these the other new students? Lin Xian guessed. Indeed, his guess was right. The new students who had arrived first turned around and looked at Lin Xian and the others with sharp gazes. It seemed that after learning about the mysterious venerable ranking, these fellows' inner competitiveness and arrogance had been stimulated. Among them, most of them were looking at Murong Qingqing. The fire in their eyes was not hidden at all. However, when they saw Lin Xian next to her, they all frowned. A few of them even snorted coldly with a hint of warning in their eyes. Lin Xian smiled bitterly. Can you pretend that you don't know me? Why? Murong Qingqing tilted her head and acted like a little girl. Are you afraid of them? This woman, Lin Xian, rubbed his temples. Was she trying to provoke them? Indeed, when they saw Murong Qingqing acting so intimately with Lin Xian, the eyes of the young men opposite them were spitting fire. The female students were so angry that they rolled their eyes, their hearts filled with jealousy. Among them, a young girl wearing fiery red leather armor stared at Murong Qingqing. Her eyes were filled with a fighting spirit that was not inferior to a man's. There was a layer of crimson-glazed light shining on her body. Lin Xian raised his head to look and was instantly stunned. Lin Xian was puzzled. He couldn't remember, but the other party's aura was very familiar. The peak of the spirit-detecting realm, Zhou Su was slightly stunned. Then he sneered disdainfully. "Looks like you haven't been doing well these years. I really don't know how my younger sister could lose to someone like you." Hearing this, the others looked at Lin Xian. Their eyes were full of disdain and ridicule. After all, the peak of cultivation was nothing here. Their bodies weren't even considered the lowest level. "This guy is so weak. How did he get in? He couldn't have gotten in through the back door, right?" The cultivators of the other three groups discussed. However, no one in Lin Xian's group dared to laugh because they had witnessed Lin Xian's strength with their own eyes. Lin Xian frowned. Were these people idiots? They only looked at the surface cultivation? "Humph, we'll know whether I'm strong or not after battle. Who wants to give it a try?" Lin Xian swept his gaze across the crowd with a sharp gaze. He wasn't someone who would back down. Moreover, he didn't plan to back down after coming here. Lin Xian's gaze carried a trace of the Sword Soul's aura. It was so sharp that it almost cut open the void. At this moment, the cultivators who were swept by his gaze suddenly trembled in fear. "How is this possible? I'm actually afraid. What a terrifying gaze. Did this guy hide his strength?" Many people were frightened and didn't dare to provoke him. Zhou Su was also surprised. This kind of gaze wasn't a threat to him. However, the Sword Soul's aura contained in it made him wary. Hiding his strength. Interesting, but that's it. Zhou Su looked down. "You'll know if it's interesting after you try." Lin Xian took a step forward. The aura on his body suddenly changed. An unusually sharp aura surged out, causing the surrounding air to surge and the sky to tremble. It was as if it was cut open by a peerless divine sword. Suddenly, everyone was stunned. Everyone widened their eyes and looked at this scene in disbelief. Lin Xian's aura was so sharp that they couldn't bear it. Even Dongfang Phoenix was surprised. Her beautiful eyes turned and stared at Lin Xian. This aura was enough to threaten her. "It seems that I've underestimated him before." Feeling Lin Xian's aura, Zhou Su's face darkened. His gaze was cold as he looked ahead. No one dared to provoke him like this. Ding, ding, ding. Sparks collided in the void, and the air rippled. Each ripple contained a terrifying, murderous intent. "I'm curious, what kind of strength do you have that makes you so arrogant?" The two of them were tit for tat. They were like two divine swords confronting each other. Countless tiny sword auras surged, forming a terrifying field that made the place extremely dangerous. "Stop!" the red-robed elder shouted in a low voice. With a wave of his sleeve, he broke the invisible sword aura field. "Fighting is prohibited in front of the True Spirit Hall. If you want to fight, the Freshman Assembly is your battlefield." The Freshman Assembly. Many people pricked up their ears and became excited. This was definitely a good opportunity to show off in Senma College. "Very well, I'll let you be arrogant for a while. Wait until the Freshman Assembly. You'll know how stupid you are." Lin Xian retracted his aura. "You're courting death." Zhou Su's face darkened. This was what he should have said. "Humph, strength is not something you can say. When the time comes, I'll let you know what it means to be strong." "All right, now follow me into the True Spirit Hall," the red-robed elder said. Then he joined forces with the other three elders to open the door of the True Spirit Hall. Everyone followed behind cautiously. "This time, we came to the True Spirit Hall to broaden your horizons. At the same time, we'll make immortal martial spirit tablets for you to become real members of Senma College." Then the four elders entered the hall, took out a crystal jade tablet half the size of a palm, and threw it into the sky. Everyone one tablet. drip your blood essence, and engrave your soul mark. Looking at the immortal martial spirit tablets that were like a rain of light, everyone moved. Lin Xian waved his hand, grabbed a crystal tablet, and operated according to the rules. Drip his blood essence and engrave his soul mark. Soon, the immortal martial spirit tablet bloomed with light and flew toward Lin Xian. Grabbing the tablet, Lin Xian felt as if he had become one with it. He looked at it carefully and found that the words Immortal Martial were engraved on the front of the tablet. Behind it was his name. Chapter 717. With the immortal martial spirit tablet, he would be an official disciple of Senma College from now on. Lin Xian noticed that the others were studying the spirit tablet in their hands, so he curiously poured his spirit energy into it. Immediately, the immortal martial spirit tablet bloomed with light, forming a small light screen in the air. Above the light screen, there were all sorts of words and images. Lin Xian raised his head and looked over. Surging wave sword technique. Water attribute sword technique. Sword chi is like the waves of the sea, rolling back the 9 heavens. Top spiritual rank cultivation technique. Exchange for spiritual value points, 5,000 spiritual value points. Roaring flame saber. High-grade spiritual rank artifact, can increase fire damage by 2 times, has a continuous burning effect, exchange for spiritual value points, 7,000 spiritual value points. Purple spirit sand, as heavy as 10,000 kilograms, can increase the effect of refining and increase the attack power of the artifact. Exchange for spiritual value points, 10,000 spiritual value points. It was densely packed with all sorts of martial arts, cultivation techniques, artifacts, and so on. Lin Xian took a deep breath. So this was the use of spiritual value points. It could be exchanged for all cultivation resources. He carefully looked at the light screen and found that there were many things on it, from low to high all the way down. The things on the top were relatively low level. Lin Xian scrolled down, and his pupils suddenly shrank. Earth rank martial art, heavenly moon evil shadow art. Earth rank cultivation technique. Exchange for spiritual value points, 5 million. 5 million. Lin Xian was stunned. From the previous comparison, he knew how terrifying 5 million spiritual value points was. Probably not many people could exchange for it. However, putting an earth rank martial art here was a naked temptation. Because everyone knew how precious and terrifying an earth rank martial art was, those who had strength would go all out to gather spiritual value points. At this moment, the surrounding warriors also noticed this situation and cried out in alarm. Although they did not have a single spiritual value point, this did not stop their enthusiasm and fantasies. I wonder how many spiritual value points a half-earth rank martial art is. Lin Xian suddenly remembered that the reward for the top 3 was a half-earth rank martial art. Then, he quickly searched for it on the light screen. Found it. Demon Slayer art. Half-earth rank martial art. Exchange for spiritual value points, 300,000. Although it was not as good as an earth rank martial art, it was still a terrifying number. Seeing everyone's excited expressions, the 4 elders smiled. This was the effect they wanted. All right, I don't think I need to explain the use of spiritual value points. All of you should know, right? The red-robed elder laughed. It was enough to make everyone go crazy. This was also why the other forces in the Blood Realm had tried to invade Senma College many times. Fortunately, Senma College was strong enough to intimidate strong enemies. Moreover, Senma College had experienced thousands of years. Countless experts had walked out from here. After they left, they would all be overlords, although there was nothing much on normal days. If Senma College was in trouble, these people would definitely come back to help. Therefore, Senma College was not only strong, but also had a group of powerful helpers. This was the reason why they stood tall in the blood realm and prospered for so long. Suddenly, the crimson dragon in the demonic beast pouch became excited. "Kid, dragon blood, dragon blood!" Hearing the crimson dragon's voice transmission, Lin Xian quickly looked over. He saw a few rows of words below the light screen. Eight-clawed tyrant dragon blood essence. The blood essence of a divine beast on the heavenly ranking. It has the ability to seize the fortune of heaven and earth. It contains powerful energy. When used by martial artists, it can change one's physique. The lowest level is the king level. If there is enough blood essence, there is a chance of forming a half-dragon body. Hiss, Lin Xian took a deep breath after reading, as expected of a divine beast's blood essence. It's so powerful. A half-dragon body. Lin Xian guessed that it would not lose to a king-level body. "Kid, get it. You must get it," the crimson dragon shouted. "With it, I will be able to recover my dragon essence in advance." It was too excited. This eight-clawed tyrant dragon was from the same dragon race as it. The blood essence would be extremely useful to it. Lin Xian exclaimed in surprise. Then he looked at the price and the corner of his mouth twitched. "Spiritual value points. 8 million. Kid, if you can exchange for it." "I will do anything." The crimson dragon was anxious. "Anything?" Lin Xian became spirited. This Rizalong was very cunning. Normally, it would do things carelessly and not use its full strength. Now, it was definitely a good thing for it to use its full strength. It seemed that this time, the Rizalong was really anxious. "Don't worry, I will definitely get it for you," Lin Xian said. However, 8 million spiritual value points is a sky-high price. I estimate that it will take a long time. All right, during this period of time, I will do my best to help you. After the two finished their discussion, the voice of the red-robed old man sounded again. "You little guys, hurry up and choose a half-earth rank martial art." Hearing this, Lin Xian put down the matter of the eight-clawed tyrant dragon's blood essence and began to choose a martial art. However, Instructor Gua's next sentence extinguished everyone's enthusiasm. "There's no such thing as a free lunch in this world. You have to pay to live in a house. Starting from here, the deeper you go, the denser the spiritual qi is. Of course, the more expensive it is. 500 spiritual value points for a month outside, 1,000 spiritual value points for a month in the middle, and 2,000 spiritual value points for a month inside. So expensive." Everyone cried out in alarm. Many people's faces darkened because they had just arrived at the academy. The spiritual value points in their hands were the rewards for ranking in the examination. Those students who were ranked at the bottom did not even have 500 spiritual value points in their hands. They probably could not even afford to live in the outermost courtyard. Seeing the embarrassed looks of the newcomers, Instructor Gua smiled. "Since you guys have just arrived, you can owe the first month's rent first. You can pay it all together next month. All right, you can choose now." Everyone's expressions were solemn, as if they were facing a great enemy. The courtyard inside was good, but 2,000 spiritual value points per month was really a sky-high price. Although they could pay it late, it did not mean that they could not pay it at all. Everyone thought about it and decided to live in the outermost courtyard first. They would consider the house inside after they had stabilized. "Where do you live?" Murong Qingqing asked. "Inside," Lin Xian replied. He had 3,000 spiritual value points in his hands. It was enough for the first month. Moreover, he believed that with his strength he should be able to earn enough spiritual value points. Moreover, the spiritual qi here was indeed not bad. It could speed up his cultivation. Only when his cultivation reached the venerable realm would Lin Xian feel confident. After all, there were too many monsters in Senma College. "I'll go too." Seeing that Lin Xian had chosen the inside, Murong Qingqing followed. "Sai, I'm so envious to have a beauty accompanying me. Many people were jealous, but they knew that Lin Xian was truly powerful. They could not be envious. If they wanted to achieve what they wanted, they could only work hard to cultivate and increase their strength. Shaoli chose the courtyard in the middle. Shen Yaotian stared at the backs of Lin Xian and Morong Qingcheng, his eyes burning with anger. However, when he saw the spiritual value points in his hand, his face immediately darkened. In the end, he could only choose the courtyard in the middle. Walking on the small path paved with gravel, Lin Xian felt that the spiritual qi was getting denser and denser. He was in a good mood. The 2,000 spiritual value points were worth it. How great would it be if I could master this kind of spirit-gathering array? Lin Xian was envious. When the time comes, I'll establish the Dragon Sword Pavilion and get 100 spirit-gathering arrays. Bah! The Crimson Dragon looked down on him and said, "What do you think this is? Cabbage? This kind of exquisite spirit-gathering array is not something that an ordinary person can set up. Don't I have you?" Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. "Aren't you known as a formation master? This spirit-gathering array shouldn't be difficult for you, right? If I was at my peak, it would be a piece of cake. But now it's really difficult." The Crimson Dragon drooped his head. "It's fine. There's no rush. You should first understand the spirit-gathering array here. I'll think of a way to increase your strength." Lin Xian frowned. "What are you thinking about?" Seeing that Lin Xian did not speak, but his expression kept changing, Morong Qingcheng asked in confusion, No, I'm just amazed by this powerful and magical spirit-gathering array. You mean this? As far as I know, this is only an ordinary spirit-gathering array. There are intermediate and advanced spirit-gathering arrays above this. Only those are considered good. There's more." Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. This was really an eye-opening experience. "All right, don't be so serious. If you join the Morong family, all of this will be nothing to you." Morong Qingcheng tempted. "Will you consider it?" This chick is at it again. Lin Xian was helpless. Am I that good?" Morong Qingcheng tilted her head and looked at him. "Although you're not the strongest, you're the most special martial artist I've ever seen. I have a feeling that your future achievements will be limitless, so I have to make the most of it now." "Are you sure?" Lin Xian was surprised. Don't underestimate a woman's sixth sense. Morong Qingcheng was very confident. "And all the things you've done have shown that you're indeed very special. How about this? Why don't we make a bet?" Lin Xian saw that he could not escape, so he came up with an idea. "What? Let's bet on who will be the first on the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard." Lin Xian's eyes shone brightly. "If it's you, then I'll join you unconditionally. If I'm the first one, then don't ever mention this again. If anyone else was present, they would definitely go crazy." Lin Xian was a new student who had not even reached the martial venerable realm, but he was actually thinking about the Mystic Sovereign leaderboard. Moreover, he was betting on first place. This was a madman. It was evening. The setting sun shone through the layers of leaves, forming spots of light that scattered on Lin Xian's face. It was as if he was covered in a layer of radiance. Lin Xian walked in the forest with a young and confident smile on his face. He was like a king as he spoke those words that would make anyone go crazy. Chapter 719. The contents of the bet surprised Morong Qingcheng. She did not expect Lin Xian to be so ambitious. Number 1 on the Xian sovereign list. "All right, I'll bet with you." Morong Qingcheng smiled and said, "You're very confident. But this time, I'll definitely win." "Not necessarily." Lin Xian's lips curled up slightly. Then, the two of them separated and entered their respective courtyards. Although it was said that they were going to their respective courtyards, in reality, the two of them were next to each other. This made Lin Xian feel helpless and could only accept it in the end. After entering the courtyard, Lin Xian casually set up a defensive formation. Although this was an academy, his years of battle experience reminded him that it was better to be careful. At least he would be able to obtain more time. Lin Xian was not in a hurry to cultivate. Instead, he took out the scroll of the academy's rules. According to the red-robed elder, it recorded the method to obtain spiritual value points. In this place where even living in a house required spiritual value points, one had to master the method to earn spiritual value points. Otherwise, one would probably live a miserable life. Following that, Lin Xian had a general understanding. There were many ways to obtain spiritual value points. Among them, there were two most common methods. One was to complete the missions issued by the academy and cultivate. If one's cultivation increased, one would automatically obtain spiritual value points. Other than that, there were many other methods. Lin Xian took a look. There were all kinds of methods. One of them was to donate cultivation techniques and treasures. In other words, students would hand over cultivation techniques to the academy, and the academy would give out the corresponding spiritual value points according to the cultivation technique's level. This method was feasible, but no one would donate their core cultivation technique. However, the cultivation techniques obtained outside could be handed over. Hand over cultivation techniques? Lin Xian rubbed his chin. He had quite a few in his hands, including a few half-earth rank martial arts that he had obtained from killing the divine bird palace's venerable. Should I hand them over? Lin Xian frowned. Senma College was famous in the Tianmu continent. There should be people from the divine bird palace in the academy. If he was discovered, it would not be good. Moreover, he did not know the relationship between Senma College and the major powers, so it was better to be careful. Forget it, let's look at other methods. Lin Xian shook his head. He was not worried about finding a way to solve this problem, because 3 months later, there would be a large-scale auction in Wind-Seeking City. In that kind of place, no one cared about the origin of the cultivation method. I'll cultivate first, then I'll go and accept missions. Lin Xian made his decision. Then he put away the academy's rules and took out the 4 seasons sword technique. This was a set of half-earth tier martial arts. It was divided into 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Each season had a different style. According to what was mentioned above, if he was able to combine 4 different types of concepts, he would be able to display the might of the 4 seasons sword technique to the maximum. At that time, when the 4 types of concepts were combined, the might of the 4 seasons sword technique would not be inferior to a true earth rank martial technique. 4 concepts. This required a very high level of comprehension. It could be said that the 4 seasons sword technique was extremely difficult. The reason why Lin Xian had chosen this sword technique was because of this unique characteristic. He had grasped many kinds of concepts, so it was likely that he would be able to grasp the 4 seasons sword technique. The spring sword was a continuous and meticulous sword technique, endlessly growing and multiplying, bringing with it powerful vitality. The sword of summer was scorching hot and exuberant, carrying with it a powerful force. The sword of autumn was cold and austere, carrying with it a sense of nirvana. The sword of winter was cold and bone-piercing, carrying with it a sense of destruction amidst the violence. These 4 sword techniques each contain their own sword techniques and sword moves. It could be said that the 4 seasons sword technique was extremely vast. Lin Xian currently grasped the 3 natural concepts of wind, thunder, and fire. His strongest was sword intent, which had already formed a sword soul. It could be said that it was the foundation of the sword technique. Other than that, there was also the sword of nirvana and the sword of slaughter. These 2 killing moves could evolve the concept of nirvana and slaughter, which was perfect for the sword of autumn and sword of winter. As for the sword of spring, it was similar to his longevity secret, endlessly growing and multiplying. Other than that, For example, the concept of wind could be used in any sword technique. For example, the spring wind, the summer wind, the cold wind, and the winter wind. If used properly, it could be said to have endless wonderful uses. It seemed that he really needed to study it carefully. Lin Xian's eyes shone brightly. He decided to start with the concept of wind. He was completely engrossed in the four-season sword technique and completely forgot about the time. In the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. On this day, the defensive formation in the courtyard fluctuated, waking Lin Xian up. "Kid, it's your lover looking for you." The Crimson Dragon had a wretched look on his face. Lin Xian rolled his eyes, put away the Four Seasons sword technique, and walked outside. Sure enough, Murong Qingcheng was standing outside the courtyard. "You finally came out." Chapter 720. Yan Qingyang came to Murong Qingcheng's side casually, attracting the screams of countless female disciples. However, Murong Qingcheng didn't have a good impression of him. She politely shook her head and rejected him. "Looks like you don't know who I am. I'm Yan Qingyang, a student from the previous batch. At the same time, I'm also the vice president of Daoling Association." Yan Qingcheng was confident. He believed that as long as he mentioned Daoling Association, Murong Qingcheng would be surprised. However, he was wrong. Murong Qingcheng didn't react, even though she knew the strength of Daoling Association. Yan Qingyang's face darkened when he saw that Murong Qingcheng didn't move. He couldn't vent his anger on Murong Qingcheng, so he stared at Lin Xian. "Kid, get lost if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." Yan Qingyang transmitted his voice. Lin Xian was pissed off. "You can't get a girl, so you blame others?" Moreover, Yan Qingyang's arrogant attitude disgusted him. Therefore, Lin Xian ignored Yan Qingyang's warning and asked, "Are you done? If so, let's go. The flies here are too noisy." Everyone was stunned and turned to look. They saw what happened just now, but no one dared to say anything. After all, Yan Qingyang was a powerful senior. Moreover, he had Daoling Association behind him. They couldn't afford to offend such a person. However, Lin Xian, a new student, actually called him a fly. He was courting death. "Kid, what did you say?" Yan Qingyang was furious. "I said there are flies here. Why are you so anxious?" Lin Xian sneered. "Are you a fly? That's ridiculous." Yan Qingyang's eyes darkened when he heard that. He stared at Lin Xian. A cold and terrifying aura filled the air and shrouded the surroundings. At the same time, a few powerful martial artists walked over. Their aura had reached the honorable realm. Lin Xian squinted his eyes. The great dragon sword soul in his body was ready to attack. He wasn't looking for trouble, but the other party was too annoying. They actually treated him like a soft persimmon. If he didn't fight back, these guys might do something outrageous. Moreover, he had already sensed the hostility and murderous aura from the other party. They were enemies sooner or later. Lin Xian wouldn't be bullied. "I'm done. Let's go," Murong Qingcheng said. She saw the other party, Murong Qingcheng and Murong Qingcheng's group. Lin Xian glanced at Yan Qingyang and the rest before shrugging his shoulders. "All right, I don't like being surrounded by flies either." Then he turned Ants Groupses and Murong Qingcheng. "This kid, he is courting death." A few arse face. "That's right, let him know the power of our Daoling Association." The others agreed. And Murong Qingcheng, Miran likes, he is. "Don't worry, Brother Yang. You know my strength. I passed the 5th level of the training tower half a year ago." The young man laughed. "I will let him know that as a noob student, he has to behave himself with his tail between his legs." His body swayed, and like a wisp of green smoke, he disappeared from the spot. "Daoling Association? With them taking action, Muron is going to be in trouble. Shen Yaotian sneered in his heart. Lin Xian and Murong Qingcheng left the mission hall and headed out of the college. I'm leaving. With your strength, you shouldn't be in any danger. Lin Xian waved his hand. Be careful. I'm worried that those people will find trouble with you, Murong Qingcheng said seriously. Are you talking about those flies? Don't underestimate them. They are from the Dao Ling Association. What's the Dao Ling Association? Lin Xian asked. There are many disciples in the college. Naturally, many societies have been formed. The Dao Ling Association is one of the stronger ones. Also, don't underestimate Yan Qinyang. He is on the Mystic Sovereign Leaderboard. Dao Ling Association, Mystic Sovereign Leaderboard. I got it. Lin Xian was on his guard. I'm guessing that Yan Qinyang won't make a move easily. After all, his status is different. However, I can't be sure about the others, Murong Qingcheng said. I got it. Don't worry, I'll be fine. Lin Xian waved his hand, turned around, and flew out of Senma College. Murong Qingcheng's mission was different from his, so the two of them had to carry it out separately. This time, Lin Xian took a different path. After leaving Senma College, he arrived at a vast forest. The mountain range stretched for tens of thousands of miles, and he couldn't see the end of it. Lin Xian used his movement technique and entered the vast forest. His shadow flickered, and a map appeared in his hand. The college's missions had information prompts, so as long as one's strength was not weak, they could usually complete them. Lin Xian looked at the mission information. The forest he was in belonged to the Onyx God Mountain Range. It was a primitive forest. The target of his mission, the Blood Flame Rat, was a level 9 monster beast, which was equivalent to a human martial artist at the limit of the spiritual detecting realm. However, as a monster beast, they had an innate advantage, so their strength was slightly stronger. They were equivalent to a half-step martial venerable. This kind of monster beast was bloodthirsty, dark, and liked to live in groups, so it was troublesome to deal with them. Let's take a look first. Lin Xian put away the mission information and increased his speed. He stood on top of a tree and kept jumping. Every jump was 100 feet. At the same time, he used his soul power to search. At the same time, far behind him, there was a wave of black smoke cautiously following him. It was soundless, and there was no way to detect it. After an hour, Lin Xian's face lit up, and his body sank like a huge mountain. He finally found the Blood Flame Rat. Whoosh! Like a feather, Lin Xian landed lightly. There was a group of about 50 Blood Flame rats in front of him. Lin Xian used his soul power to collect information. There are others? Lin Xian was surprised. He found that there were other martial artists in other directions. However, they didn't look like they were from Senma College. They should be from other forces. Lin Xian didn't move. He just observed silently. In the distance, 3 figures were pacing back and forth. 2 of them were middle-aged martial artists. One was a martial venerable, and the other was a half-step martial venerable. There was also a young man with a nervous expression. Uncle Wang, is it really okay? The young man asked uneasily. Don't worry, young master. As long as we lure out one blood flame rat at a time, there won't be any danger. Yes, we must get the heart of the blood flame rat this time. The young man clenched his fists. The middle-aged man in black smiled. At the same time, he quickly lit up a snake-shaped incense stick. A strange fragrance drifted with the wind. However, the middle-aged man quickly extinguished the snake-shaped incense stick and waited carefully. Soon, there was a commotion in the distance. Then, the whole ground shook. Along with it, there was a red blood mist and a thick murderous aura. Be careful! The blood flame rats are here, the middle-aged man in black shouted. Lin Xian was also surprised when he saw this scene. However, When he sensed carefully, he frowned. Chapter 7:21. In the distance, a figure the size of a small mountain appeared in the forest. It was a blood flame rat with scales all over its body. It was as big as a mountain and was surrounded by a bloody aura. It was extremely terrifying. When it saw the black-clothed middle-aged man and the other two, it did not rush over. Instead, it opened its bloody mouth and spat out a green ball of light. Oh no! The black-clothed middle-aged man's expression changed drastically. This situation was beyond his expectations. He originally thought that the blood flame rat would rush over, but he did not expect this situation. In a moment of desperation, he could only attack. Whoosh! A purple saber light cut through the void like a purple wave and slashed towards the blood flame rat. Puff! The purple saber light was resplendent and slashed the green ball of light in the air, instantly shattering it. However, the green ball of light contained a large amount of green liquid that was highly toxic and corrosive. In an instant, it wrapped around the purple saber light and made sizzling sounds. More green liquid fell to the ground, corroding the trees and soil, creating large depressions. The black-clothed middle-aged man was a supremacy after all. He roared angrily, and the saber light was as bright as snow. It was like a ferocious purple python. Bang! The saber slashed at the blood flame rat and tore apart its scaly body. Roar! The blood flame rat let out a sharp cry in pain. The sound wave was like a tsunami that spread in all directions. Oh no! The black-clothed, middle-aged man's eyelids twitched. This roar definitely alarmed the entire blood flame rat group. Damn it! Run! At this moment, he no longer cared about hunting and turned around to fly back. However, the ground around him trembled and countless mountain-like figures appeared, surrounding this place. At the same time, the ground under the young man's feet cracked, and a shocking murderous aura soared into the sky. No, the black-clothed, middle-aged man roared crazily. He wanted to help, but he was one step too late. At this moment, an azure arrow pierced through the air like a bolt of lightning and shot towards the blood flame rat on the ground. Puff! Roar! Blood splattered everywhere, accompanied by a miserable roar. The ground cracked open, and a huge body was pierced through by the green arrow. The terrifying power brought the blood flame rat hundreds of meters away. What a terrifying archery technique! The young man and the others were stunned. The black-clothed, middle-aged man's heart trembled. As a supremacy, he could understand how terrifying that arrow was. Roar! Seeing their companions killed, countless blood flame rats were enraged. Their murderous aura soared into the sky, dyeing the entire forest red. They all stared behind them. Even the black-clothed hillman was staring intently. Behind him, the void rippled and a handsome young man in a blue robe stepped through the air. He held a golden bow in his hand. Thank you for your help, young hero. The three of them were shocked to see how young the newcomer was. Nothing much, just carrying out a mission. This young man was naturally Lin Xian. Through his soul power, he had long since discovered the blood flame rat underground. At the critical moment, he had launched an attack and saved the young man's life. Mission? The middle-aged man in black asked carefully, "Are you a student of Senma College?" "Yes." Lin Xian nodded. He then pulled back the string of his thunderbow once more. Streaks of green arrows flew out at an incredible speed, leaving no time for anyone to react. Puff! Puff! In an instant, the three blood flame rats were pierced through, and their huge bodies were nailed to the ground. Hiss! The middle-aged man in black sucked in a breath of cold air. What terrifying strength! The young man's eyes were filled with envy. He clenched his fists excitedly. The surrounding blood flame rats were enraged. They all rushed toward Lin Xian with bloodshot eyes. Looking at the situation, he wanted nothing more than to tear him in half. "Not good, young hero. Be careful," the middle-aged man in black warned. The attack of so many blood flame rats was no joke. No matter how strong he would not be able to defend himself, unless he was a second-stage venerable. Looking at the blood flame rats coming from all directions, Lin Xian stood calmly. Then a shocking roar came from his body and shot into the sky. The roar was very deep, like the roar of a dragon. Buzz. As soon as the roar came out, the blood flame rats trembled. Their eyes were filled with fear, and many of them were trembling. It was fear that came from their souls. In the next moment, those overbearing demonic beasts with monstrous baleful auras all fled. They transformed into numerous rays of bloody light that charged out of the forest and mountains, and they fled without a trace. Buzz. Lin Xian took the opportunity to kill 2 more blood flame rats. Humph, it's just a group of demonic beasts. How dare they behave so atrociously in front of Ben Huang? If Ben Huang doesn't show his power, do you really think I'm a sick snake? The Crimson Dragon snorted. It turned out that the dragon roar just now was from it. As a member of the Divine Dragon Clan, he naturally had the ability to suppress demonic beasts, especially those blood flame rats. Below, the middle-aged man in black and the other 2 were completely stunned. This method was simply a miracle. "I only want the demonic crystals of the blood flame rats," Lin Xian said to the 3 people below. "Ah, okay. Hero, please wait a moment." The 3 people came back to their senses and began to deal with the corpses of the blood flame rats. Soon, 5 fist-sized demonic crystals appeared in front of Lin Xian. "It's very dangerous here. Be careful." Lin Xian put away the demonic crystals and reminded them. Chapter 722. The air vibrated as countless black shadows pounced towards Lin Xian. Bats, countless bats, like a black flood, covered the sky and covered the earth. Pairs of bloodthirsty eyes flickered. Incomparably demonic. Roar. Another deep dragon roar, forming a visible sound wave that swept out in all directions. Immediately, the bats that were pouncing over trembled and fell to the ground. Soon, the bats that rushed out of the cave all landed on the ground. At this moment, an even more terrifying sound came from the depths of the cave, shaking the surrounding rocks and cracking them. Obviously, the dragon roar just now had stimulated the Bat King inside. Whoosh! A gray shadow floated by, and a sharp sound broke through the air. A pair of sharp claws grabbed towards Lin Xian from above. So fast. Lin Xian used the illusory demonic steps, and his body turned into countless phantoms, dodging quickly. Then he looked ahead vigilantly. There was a 2-foot-tall monster with a human body and a bat head. Its 4 limbs had sharp claws and a pair of gray wings that were 3 feet long with golden lines on its back. Its eyes were golden, and at this moment, they were emitting a fierce light. Golden-eyed demonic bat, right? Lin Xian carefully compared and found that the monster in front of him was the one he was looking for. As if it felt Lin Xian's burning gaze, the golden-eyed demonic bat roared, and the sound wave was like a sharp blade cutting through the void. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The air trembled as if it was boiling. Countless cracks about 10 feet long appeared on the surrounding rocks and ground, and the incisions were flat. It was very terrifying. Sound wave technique. The golden-eyed demonic bat's signature attack. The sky fell, and the earth cracked. The terrifying roar caused the mountains to tremble, and countless peaks to split open. The terrifying sound wave rushed towards Lin Xian. Mad lion roar. Lin Xian opened his mouth and roared out a sound wave technique, as if an ancient demonic lion was born. The terrifying sound caused the air to tremble as if a tsunami had occurred. Puff, puff, puff. Boulders collapsed into pieces, and trees turned into powder. The ground seemed to be torn apart by a pair of invisible hands, and a terrifying crack appeared and spread into the distance. The two sound waves collided, producing a demonic sound. Countless translucent wave blades surged and rushed into the sky. Terrifying energy surged out, causing the area within a radius of 1,000 meters to be greatly impacted. Seeing that his sonic attack was blocked, the golden-eyed demonic bat became extremely anxious. His gray wings flapped, and he turned into a gray light, quickly rushing towards Lin Xian. He waved his claws, tearing the void apart. The murderous aura soared into the sky, forming a demonic cloud that covered all directions. In the blink of an eye, the golden-eyed demonic bat arrived in front of Lin Xian, its sharp claws gleaming with a cold light as it swiped at Lin Xian. Clang! Lin Xian pulled out the wind shadow sword and slashed at the sharp claws. The sound of metal clashing rang out as countless sparks flashed, forming electric arcs that filled the sky. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The golden-eyed demonic bat launched an attack and engaged in a fierce battle with Lin Xian. The two of them were very fast, as if two balls of light were fighting fiercely. Sword of spring, continuous spring rain. With a swing of the sword, countless strands of sword chi formed into threads that connected together like raindrops falling down. These days, Lin Xian had been studying the four-season sword technique, and he had made some progress. Now was the time to use it. The sword chi was continuous and full of vitality. Each strike was stronger than the previous, as if it was endless. The golden-eyed demonic bat was furious. It spread its wings and flew away, but no matter where it fled, there was a sky full of sword chi wrapping around it. Clang, clang, puff, puff, puff. In an instant, its body was hit hundreds of times. Fortunately, it was a demonic general, and its body's defense was strong. Otherwise, if it was an ordinary demonic beast, it would have been cut into countless pieces. But even so, it was still injured. There were countless sword wounds on its body, and streams of green blood flowed out, emitting a fishy smell. Roar! The golden-eyed demonic bat was furious. It had never been injured like this by a human. With a furious roar, it rushed over again with endless demonic chi. The human and demonic beast started fighting again. At this time, a wisp of green smoke silently arrived nearby and stopped at a hidden place. Lin Xian and the golden-eyed demonic bat did not notice it. The two of them fought again and again, and the terrifying energy destroyed everything around them. Spring sword, spring breeze. Gusts of wind formed on the sword blade, whistling out together with the sword blade. Countless sword chi surged, turning into a gust of wind that was all-pervasive. On the opposite side, the golden-eyed demonic bat felt the danger and screamed crazily. Demonic chi surged out of its body, forming the shadow of a ferocious bat king. It was about 30 meters long and emitted a terrifying aura. An intense collision occurred, and the two forces of energy entangled together. Silently, Lin Xian changed his sword technique. Autumn sword, solitary sword. This sword was very slow, as if it was stabbing out slowly, but wherever it passed, grass and trees would fall, and everything would wither. The ferocious bat king's shadow suddenly became dim, as if it would shatter at any time. Feeling that its vitality was being taken away, the golden-eyed demonic bat became frightened and uneasy. Above its eyes, golden light bloomed, forming two spiral golden ripples. When the ripples appeared, it made one's soul tremble. Kid, this should be its bloodline demonic art. The crimson dragon transmitted its voice. Lin Xian was vigilant. This power was enough to threaten him. Winter sword, winter slaughter, terrifying killing intent spread out. And then the power of the great dragon sword soul surged out. This sword was extremely powerful. A sword light slashed out, and the space was split open. It was vast and mighty like a river of death, intimidating the surroundings. Boom! The sword chi surged and collided with the golden spiral, shattering it on the spot. Then it quickly slashed towards the golden-eyed demonic bat. At the same time, the green smoke in the dark corner floated and quickly floated towards Lin Xian. Crack! The golden-eyed demonic bat resisted with all its might, but it was still split in half. Green blood spilled on the ground. However, in the next moment, Lin Xian's hair stood on end. He felt a fatal killing intent. Buzz! In an instant, the red lotus armor covered his whole body. Ding! A crisp sound came from behind him, accompanied by a terrifying force. Fortunately, the red lotus armor was extremely tough and blocked the fatal attack. However, the force sent Lin Xian flying. The massive force hit Lin Xian and sent him flying in the air like a meteor. Using the illusory demonic steps, Lin Xian's body moved horizontally in the air, dissipating the terrifying force. He blocked it? How is that possible? A surprised voice came. Lin Xian suppressed the blood and qi in his body. He turned around abruptly, and his eyes were like sword radiance sweeping in all directions. It's you. Seeing the martial artist behind him, Lin Xian's face darkened. That person was not a human, but the young man beside Yan Qingyang. Defensive armor. Kid, I didn't expect you to have such a treasure. It can actually block my attack? Chu Qianhao was shocked. He looked at the red lotus armor on Lin Xian, and his eyes were filled with greed. Kid, it's a waste for such a treasure to be on you. Why don't you hand it over to me? Maybe I'll spare your life. Humph! Lin Xian snorted, and his expression turned cold. I've said it before. I hate flies. Since you're here to die, don't blame me. Chapter 7:23. I've said that I hate flies. Since you're so eager to die, don't blame me. Lin Xian said coldly, Brat, you're arrogant. Chu Tianhao snorted when he heard Lin Xian's words. Let me tell you, freshmen have their own rules. You can't just offend anyone, especially our Tao Spirit Association. You can't afford to offend us. Let me teach you how to behave. Chu Tianhao's body started to turn illusory and hazy. Like a wisp of white smoke, he dissipated in the air and quickly drifted towards Lin Xian. It was a strange scene. A living person had turned into smoke. Those who didn't know better would think that they had seen a ghost. Like a phantom, the white smoke quickly rushed out. Its speed was so fast that it was shocking. Sword of spring, continuous spring rain. The wind shadow sword stabbed out. Lin Xian used the Four Seasons swordplay again. In an instant, the space in front of him was filled with fine sword radiance. It was continuous and formed a sword screen, like a continuous spring rain. The space in front of him was filled with sword radiance and sealed off everything. Ha! It's useless. My martial soul is smoke. It's formless and formless. You can't hurt me at all. The arrogant voice rang out. Then, the white smoke quickly passed through the dense sword radiance and drifted towards Lin Xian. The scene was strange. Among the sword radiance in the sky, a cloud of white smoke drifted leisurely without any obstruction. In the air, the smoke slowly condensed and quickly formed Chu Tianhao's figure. His fist was covered with thick white smoke. A terrifying fist force was thrown out quickly. I can turn into smoke at any time and condense into a form at any time. I'm formless and formless. Let's see how you can hurt me. White smoke ghost fist. Above the fist, The white smoke rolled and formed two ferocious ghost heads. They attached themselves to the fist and roared as they bit towards Lin Xian. The air exploded in an instant. A terrifying force rushed to the sky and left a white trail in the air. Rows of airwaves rolled. It was a shocking scene. Sword of Summer. Dance of the Wind. Lin Xian held the wind shadow sword in his hand and swung it towards the sky. A strong gust of wind blew in the air and whistled as if a wind beast was roaring. A terrifying and vast power surged in all directions. Whoosh! The fierce wind and sword chi whistled, blowing on the white smoke ghost fist, causing it to sway nonstop as if it would shatter at any moment. Petty tricks! Chu Tianhao laughed coldly as he punched out. Instantly, the white ghost head turned illusory, wanting to pass through the raging sword chi. Wisps of white smoke surged in the air and strangely appeared in front of Lin Xian. They quickly condensed, and the ghost head suddenly bit down. Puff! Lin Xian's figure shattered. It was just an afterimage. His real body had already arrived at the side with a solemn look in his eyes. His opponent's martial soul was too strange. It was actually this kind of formless smoke which was indeed beyond his expectations. Vermilion bird seal. With a low shout, he formed a seal with his left palm and quickly waved it forward. A vermilion bird soared into the sky, bringing with it towering flames. It pierced through the void like a real divine beast, pouncing towards Chu Tianhao. The entire sky was dyed red, and the blazing energy caused the void to tremble. Like a meteor, it streaked across the sky brilliantly. Its useless, formless form, the white ghost head floated and turned into wisps of white smoke, slipping away in all directions as if it had disappeared. Chu Tianhao's face was filled with disdain. Although he was only at the first sky of the honorable realm, his martial soul made him extremely strange. Few people in the same realm could defeat him. Boom! The flaming vermilion bird tore the sky apart and pierced through the ground, but it did not hurt Chu Tianhao. Whoosh! In an instant, Chu Tianhao had already arrived behind Lin Xian. He bent his arm, forming a long whip of white smoke and a spiderweb-like smoke net quickly wrapping around Lin Xian. Lin Xian's red lotus armor shone, forming a solid defense. At the same time, he stabbed out with his sword. Puff! Chu Tianhao's chest was pierced and a transparent sword hole appeared, but there was no blood. Ha ha! When the sword radiance disappeared, the smoke floated and repaired the chest that was hit. Chu Tianhao was unharmed, but Lin Xian was shrouded in the white smoke net. Unharmed, Lin Xian frowned. It seemed that normal attacks had no effect. Don't waste your energy. With your strength, you can't hurt me. Chu Tianhao said disdainfully. Boy, watch how I deal with you. He was like a demon, slowly walking towards Lin Xian. Can't hurt you? Lin Xian laughed. You're too confident. Watch how I break your net. Break it? You think you can break my attack? Chu Tianhao laughed, as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. However, he soon couldn't laugh anymore. His face turned red, as if someone was strangling his neck. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Just a moment ago, a sword radiance flashed and cut the white smoke net that he had formed. Furthermore, what was even stranger was that the smoke did not merge back together like before. There was a sharp and terrifying aura at the opening that stopped everything. How is this possible? Chu Tianhao was shocked, and disbelief was written all over his face. Although he was a first-rank honorable, he had few opponents in the same rank as him because of his smoke martial soul. That kind of formless attack was impossible for his opponents to break. Even if it was broken, he could quickly merge it back together. However, this time, things were out of his control. The smoke that was cut apart by Lin Xian could not merge back together at all. Damn it, what did he do? What kind of power is that? Chu Tianhao's face turned ugly. If he was surprised, then in the next moment, he was horrified. That was because he saw Lin Xian unleash the sword of withered silence, piercing into the sky, and instantly dispersing the smoke above. The smoke dimmed, and then disappeared in the air. What? This is impossible. Chu Tianhao panicked. He tried his best to sense, and found that the smoke had really disappeared. Impossible. How can this be? He was terrified. He looked at Lin Xian and trembled slightly. Is that his martial soul? Chu Tianhao panicked. In fact, he guessed right. That was the power of Lin Xian's dragon sword soul. The great dragon sword spirit was an offensive saint technique between heaven and earth. It was invincible and could cut through the void, let alone the smoke. Therefore, when Lin Xian used the power of the dragon sword soul, the smoke was easily cut apart. Then he used the lonely sword's lonely sword to make the smoke disappear. It could be said that Lin Xian had become Chu Tianhao's nemesis. Lin Xian cut apart the white smoke around him with a sword. Then, holding the wind shadow sword, he walked over slowly. Didn't you want to teach me a lesson? What other tricks do you have? Use them all. Chu Tianhao was terrified. His martial soul was restrained, and he did not have the courage to fight at all. Kid, consider yourself lucky. I'll let you go this time. Don't let me see you again. After saying that, he turned around to leave. You want to leave? Don't you think it's too late? Lin Xian sneered. He used his body movement technique and created countless shadows. They filled the surroundings and blocked Chu Tianhao's way. Why don't I teach you how to behave? Chapter 724. Why don't I teach you how to behave? Lin Xian returned the same words to him. If it were anyone else, Chu Tianhao would have slapped them. How dare someone teach him how to behave? But now he did not dare to do anything. Lin Xian's martial soul was too powerful. It completely countered his martial soul. Now he was filled with regret. Why did he force himself to be brave and accept this mission? Why didn't he investigate Lin Xian's background before coming here? If he knew that Lin Xian was so strong, he might not have come. But it was too late now. What are you doing? Chu Tianhao was terrified. I'm warning you, I'm from Dao Ling Association. If you dare to touch me, you're dead. He had no choice but to use Dao Ling Association's name, hoping that it would scare him. But Lin Xian was not afraid at all. Instead, his smile deepened. Don't worry, I won't kill you. I know Senma College's rules. Lin Xian smiled. I just want to teach you how to behave. Looking at that sinister smile, Chu Tianhao was about to cry. Indeed, Senma College forbade students from killing each other, but there was a kind of pain worse than death. Chu Tianhao knew that Lin Xian would not let him go easily. Sure enough, Lin Xian waved his hand and released the crimson dragon and the little white monkey. Come, come, come. Ben Wang will teach you how to behave. The crimson dragon was excited. I'm the best at teaching people. Let me do it. The little white monkey was equally excited. It danced with joy. Snake demon, Chu Tianhao screamed. Damn it, how can you say that? Ben Wang really needs to teach you a lesson. The crimson dragon was unhappy. Little one, tie him up. Run. Chu Tianhao was going crazy. His body turned into white smoke and fled in all directions. This was his secret escape technique. As long as a wisp of white smoke escaped, he would be able to leave. However, he still underestimated the crimson dragon and the snow white monkey. Looking at the scattered white smoke, the crimson dragon sneered again and again. It waved its claws and quickly arranged a formation that covered a radius of 100 meters. Then, a strange force formed in the formation, causing Chu Tianhao to reveal himself. Then, A bolt of lightning flashed, shining with dazzling light, and rushed towards Chu Tianhao. That scene resembled the roar of a lightning dragon. Wang! In an instant, the lightning turned into a line of light and trapped Chu Tianhao. Wuji, Wuji, the little white monkey, was excited. It used the thunderclap whip in its hand to trap the other party. Puff! With a casual tug, Chu Tianhao was pulled down. Chu Tianhao was in a daze, unable to believe what he had just heard. This time, he didn't even use Lin Xian's hand. How could two demonic beasts finish him off? What happened to this world? He felt that he could not keep up with the pace of the world. Kid, Ban Wang's education has begun. Then, a miserable cry sounded, like the wailing of ghosts and the howling of wolves. It was so creepy that the surrounding demonic beasts fled. After a long time, the sound gradually disappeared. Demon, demon, Chu Tianhao's body curled up like a little wife who had been violated. It was very miserable. Lin Xian took care of the golden-eyed demonic bat's corpse and came to Chu Tianhao's side. How is it? Problem. This kid will definitely be a good person in the future. The crimson dragon patted its chest and promised, "Here, this is his immortal martial spirit tablet and storage ring." Lin Xian took it with satisfaction and then began to check the spirit tablet. 200 spiritual value points? So little? Lin Xian frowned. "Hey, aren't you from the Tao Spirit Association? Why are you so poor?" Hearing this, Chu Tianhao's mouth twitched. "I've already used up all my spiritual value points. Who would still have any left? Forget it." Lin Xian was disappointed. "Throw the spirit tablet over. You're lucky this time." "Lucky?" Chu Tianhao cried. Not only had he received a deep education, but his storage ring had also been robbed. How could this be called lucky? He realized that compared to Lin Xian, he was nothing. Lin Xian was the demon. "I'll let you off this time. If you want to cause trouble again, remember to bring more spiritual value points." Lin Xian kept the other party's storage ring and left with the crimson dragon and the snow-white monkey. In the forest, only Chu Tianhao's miserable howls could be heard. Senma College. A few youths were waiting in the pavilion near the entrance. These people were Yan Qingyang and other members of the Tao Spirit Association. Looking at the time, Chu Tianhao should be done. Why isn't he back yet? I guess that kid is thinking of some new tricks to torture people again. The youths were discussing. Yan Qingyang frowned slightly. For some reason, he had a bad feeling in his heart. "Brother Yang, don't worry. He's just a freshman and a fake supremacy. What can such a person do?" "That's right. Isn't it just?" another disciple said with a smile. However, he stopped halfway because he saw a person. "That kid? How is that possible?" The few of them were shocked. Why was he fine? Damn it. Did Chu Tianhao not do anything? Seeing that Lin Xian had returned safe and sound, Yan Qingyang's face turned gloomy. "Humph! Tell Chu Tianhao to come back and see me." After saying that, he waved his sleeves and disappeared in a ray of light. Only the rest of the people were left looking at each other. After Lin Xian returned, he ran straight to the mission hall. The 2 missions this time were considered practice. He only wanted to understand the situation of the missions. After everything was clear, he would challenge the missions with high spiritual value points. Of the 2 missions, one was a basic mission of the academy, which only gave him a pitiful 100 spiritual value points. The other was a self-selected mission, which gave Lin Xian 1,500 spiritual value points. 1-star demon general, 1,500 spiritual value points. It seemed that spiritual value points were not easy to earn. Lin Xian curled his lips, kept the spiritual value points, and returned to his courtyard. At the same time, in a small mansion in the senior students' residential area, Yan Qingyang and the rest were gathered. Among them was Chu Tianhao. At this moment, Chu Tianhao's face was pale, and he looked dispirited. It was obvious that he had not recovered from the previous education. Old Chu, what's wrong with you? Why did you let that kid return safely? Yeah, didn't you do anything? The surrounding warriors asked. Yan Qingyang's face darkened. What happened? You have to give me an explanation for this matter. Hearing the crowd's question, Chu Tianhao seemed to have thought of something, and his body trembled. He said weakly, I did, but I failed. Failed? How is that possible? The crowd did not believe him. Your smoke martial spirit is so powerful. How could he resist it? It's useless. His martial spirit is even more strange. It's my nemesis. Chu Tianhao shook his head. He did not want to elaborate. After all, this was related to his history of humiliation. Brother Yang, that kid is very strange. His martial spirit is very sharp. I'm not his opponent. After saying that, Chu Tianhao did not wait for the others to react and left alone. Strange? Sharp? The crowd was stunned. Looking at Chu Tianhao's appearance, it was obvious that he had suffered a great loss. Was the other party really that difficult to deal with? Yan Qingyang's frown deepened. He said in a deep voice, send someone to investigate that kid's background. We must find out. Chapter 7:25. Lin Xian returned to the courtyard and organized Chu Tianhao's storage rings. He kept the useful ones and exchanged the useless ones for spiritual value points. Then he began to cultivate again. This time, Lin Xian's focus was not only on the four-season sword technique, but also on the improvement of his cultivation. Although he had the strength of a first-level supremacy, his cultivation was still at the limit of the spirit-detecting realm. Under such circumstances, he would not be able to enter the mysterious sovereign leaderboard. The requirement to enter the mysterious sovereign leaderboard was that one had to reach the supremacy realm. Therefore, Lin Xian planned to raise his cultivation to the supremacy realm. However, after cultivating for a long time, he shook his head slightly. Although his cultivation speed was already very fast, he was still not satisfied. I heard that there are other spirit gathering arrays in the academy. I wonder how effective those high-level spirit gathering arrays are. The place he lived in only had the most ordinary spirit gathering array. Although the effect was not bad, it was not possible to break through to the supremacy realm in a short period of time. Therefore, he wanted to take a look at those so-called high-level spirit gathering arrays. The spirit gathering array was very famous in Senma College, so he could find out its location by asking around. Lin Xian carefully asked around and found that with her current spiritual value points, she could only enter the intermediate spirit gathering array at most. After knowing the direction, Lin Xian walked towards the intermediate spirit gathering array. Soon, he arrived at the intermediate spirit gathering array area. The number of academies nearby began to increase, and the spiritual qi in the air was obviously denser. When he arrived, Lin Xian realized that it was different from what he had imagined. This spirit gathering array was different from the courtyard he lived in. It was a spirit gathering tower. However, the spirit gathering tower was not built on the ground, but underground. Deep pits that were like sinkholes appeared in front of him, filled with a mysterious aura. Lin Xian took a look. There were a total of 6 spirit gathering towers, forming a circle. Below the 6 spirit gathering towers was a super large intermediate spirit gathering array. From the conversations of the surrounding students, Lin Xian found out that the lower the spirit gathering tower was, the better the effect. It required more spiritual value points. The intermediate spirit gathering tower had a total of 9 floors. Each floor had 36 cultivation rooms, and the price of each floor was different. The first level required 500 spiritual value points to cultivate for 2 hours. The second level required 1,000 spiritual value points, and the third level required 1,500 spiritual value points. all the way to the 9th level. Cultivating for 2 hours would require 5,000 spiritual value points. That price could be said to be terrifying. The first floor was the cheapest, so most people rented it, but the effect was the worst. Although it was said to be the worst, it was many times better than the spirit gathering array in the courtyard. When Lin Xian arrived at the first floor, he discovered that the spiritual qi on the first floor was at least twice that of his courtyard. As expected of an intermediate spirit gathering array, it was indeed powerful. If the first floor was already so powerful, he really didn't know what the 9th floor would be like. However, with his current wealth, he could not go to the 9th level. After calculating the spiritual value points in his hands, Lin Xian decided to go to the 2nd level. The passage was spiraling, and the walls on both sides were inlaid with luminous pearls, illuminating the spiritual tower. Lin Xian passed through the numerous academies and headed downwards. However, the path to the 2nd level was blocked. A figure was sitting cross-legged there, blocking the passage. It was a young man dressed in black. He had short hair, an aquiline nose, and a cold gaze. At this moment, he was sitting there with an evil smile on his face. In addition, there were a few students in front of him. They were injured, and their faces were filled with anger. "What's going on?" Lin Xian frowned. "Fighting in the spirit gathering tower." "Freshman?" Someone beside him asked. "I advise you not to go over, or else you'll end up like those people." Someone pointed at the injured students and said, "Why?" Lin Xian did not understand. The person beside him sighed and explained, "Entering the cultivation room requires spiritual value points, and the price is not cheap. However, some people don't have that many spiritual value points on them, or they don't want to spend the spiritual value points on them, so they can only use others." "Use others?" Lin Xian frowned. "You mean snatch?" "Snatch? You're right, but they don't dare to say that." The short-haired young man in black sneered. "You're quite bold. To dare to say snatch in front of me. Do you want to use the 2nd level? If you want to use it, then come over. If you don't dare, then scram and hide in the 1st level forever." The short-haired young man snorted coldly, his words extremely arrogant. "Doesn't the Academy care about this kind of thing?" Lin Xian asked in a deep voice. "As long as no one dies, they usually don't care." That person sighed. "The path of martial arts is filled with danger, and we're in the even more dangerous blood realm. If you can't even bear these things, then you'll only die outside." Hearing this, Lin Xian fell silent. Indeed, this was a world where the strong were respected. The Academy only provided resources and life insurance. Everything else needed to be fought for. "After talking so much nonsense, do you dare or not? If you don't dare, then scram." "Don't waste my feelings," the short-haired young man shouted coldly, his body emitting a powerful aura. Suddenly, many students around him changed their expressions and kept retreating. "Freshmen, they're from the Greedy Wolf Gang. You'd better not provoke them," the person next to him kindly reminded him. "Have they always been so arrogant?" Lin Xian asked. "The Greedy Wolf Gang is greedy, overbearing, and very cruel. You can say that they're a gangster organization," that person said. "However, they have always been overbearing, but they have an exception." "Exception?" This time, Lin Xian didn't ask because he saw the exception that happened next. A figure entered from the entrance, passed through the crowd, and walked forward. The young man was in a white robe that was spotless. Although he didn't release any aura, he had a powerful aura like a mountain that people looked up to. Seeing the young man in white, the short-haired young man sitting on the ground was stunned. Then he quickly stood up and stepped aside to make way. Thud, thud, thud. The young man in white looked indifferent. He didn't even look at the short-haired young man and directly entered the next level. Throughout the entire process, the short-haired young man in black didn't say a word. He even looked a little nervous. Is this the exception? Lin Xian smiled. He finally knew what kind of people the Greedy Wolf Gang was. What Greedy Wolf Gang? It turns out that they're a bunch of trash that only bullies the weak. Lin Xian sneered disdainfully. The surrounding crowd was shocked and looked at Lin Xian in a daze. Although they knew that was the case, no one dared to say it out loud. One had to know that the Greedy Wolf Gang was very cruel and terrifying. Whoosh! In the next moment, the surrounding students moved and distanced themselves from Lin Xian. Even the martial artist who warned him shook his head and left Lin Xian's side. He didn't want to be misunderstood. Seeing the crowd's reaction, Lin Xian sighed. The Greedy Wolf Gang had done a lot of evil. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so afraid. Kid, you're the first one who dares to insult the Greedy Wolf Gang to their face. The short-haired young man in black looked ferocious. I'll let you know that some words can't be said carelessly. Chapter 726. Kid, kneel down and admit your mistake. I might let you go. Otherwise, you're dead for sure if you offend the Greedy Wolf Gang. The short-haired young man in black said with killing intent. Hearing this voice, the injured students beside him trembled. They were injured because they were unconvinced and attacked. You're just a first-level venerable. I really don't know what you're so arrogant about. Lin Xian shook his head and walked forward. You're courting death. The short-haired young man in black roared angrily. No one dared to underestimate him like this. A freshman dared to provoke him. This was undoubtedly courting death. Although I can't kill you, I have a way to make you wish you were dead. The short-haired young man in black had a sinister expression as he revealed a cruel smile. If he killed Lin Xian and obtained the spiritual value points, he would have enough spiritual value points to allow him to cultivate on the second level for a few hours. Little rookie, I'll let you know the rules of Senma College. The surrounding students shook their heads and sighed. The other party was the Greedy Wolf Gang. If he went up, it was no different from courting death. Moreover, Lin Xian didn't seem to have any powerful aura. However, there were some new students who recognized Lin Xian. Isn't that the first place in the exam? Yeah, I remember him. He's very close to Morong Qingcheng. I think his name is Lin Xian. Many people were discussing first place in the exam. No wonder he's so arrogant. The short-haired young man in black was disdainful. First place in the exam, and you think you're invincible? What a joke. Let me tell you, you rookies are nothing in front of me. You talk too much nonsense. Lin Xian frowned and quickened his pace. Kid, kneel down. The short-haired young man roared and waved his palm. In the next moment, a terrifying aura erupted, and a powerful force surged along with the fist wind. The short-haired young man controlled the power very well. The power condensed together and rushed towards Lin Xian without spreading. Get lost! Lin Xian spat out a thunderous sound and also punched out. On his fist, golden lightning jumped, forming a dragon head that roared ferociously. Boom! The two collided, creating a deep sound that echoed in the tunnel. Suddenly, mysterious patterns appeared on the walls on both sides, emitting light and forming a light screen that protected the tower. The short-haired young man's body trembled, and he retreated continuously. Streaks of golden lightning coursed through his body, forming a powerful lightning force that numbed his entire body. What? Repelled. Everyone was shocked, their faces filled with disbelief. They did not expect that a freshman could actually beat back a member of the Ravenous Wolf Gang with one punch. It was no wonder that the other party did not care at all and wanted to go to the second floor. It turned out that he was actually so powerful. The short-haired young man was equally shocked. His body trembled slightly as the golden electric arc slowed his movements. Spiritual energy surged within the short-haired young man's body, forming a spiritual energy shockwave that eliminated the lightning on his body. Then he stared at Lin Xian. A biting, cold, murderous aura filled the air. The freshman in front of him had actually made him suffer a loss. As a member of the Greedy Wolf Gang, he could not tolerate this. "Brat, you'll regret this." "Scram." Lin Xian shouted coldly, his voice like thunder. Everyone was shocked. This freshman was so terrifying. Why did it seem that he was even more arrogant than the members of the Greedy Wolf Gang? The short-haired young man's face was gloomy. Although he had suffered a loss just now, it did not mean that he was inferior to Lin Xian. In the next moment, the spiritual energy in his body surged, and a purple halo appeared with a terrifying aura. "Brat, this is my martial soul. Purple Destruction Halo. You should be proud that you were defeated by my martial soul." After displaying his purple ring martial soul, the short-haired young man had a domineering aura. Purple ripples appeared and spread in all directions like waves. They carried a terrifying power and surged toward Lin Xian. The surroundings became abnormally oppressive, making it difficult for people to breathe. "Purple ring, martial soul, this is what you rely on," Lin Xian sneered. Sword radiance flashed in his eyes, and suddenly a fierce aura surged out, as if a peerless divine sword had been unsheathed, splitting the void. The surrounding people trembled, especially the martial artist who had warned Lin Xian. His eyes were wide open. He did not expect Lin Xian to have such strength. The fierce aura made his heart tremble, and he was unable to resist it. What is this? A martial soul? Why is it so fierce? Until now, he had not seen through Lin Xian's martial soul. The short-haired young man also felt Lin Xian's martial soul, and his face turned ugly. The fierce aura made his heart tremble, and he felt that he was unable to resist it. It felt as if there was a divine sword hanging above his head, and it would slash down at any moment. Sword of summer, sword of great waterfall. Lin Xian's fingers were like a sword, and they fell quickly. Suddenly, the spiritual energy in the sky rolled, and countless sword chi surged like a huge silver waterfall, surging without stopping. Every waterfall was formed by sword chi, and it was extremely fierce. The short-haired young man's pupils shrank. This sword was too exquisite, and its aura was extremely violent. However, its power was controlled within a certain range, and it did not cause any damage to the spirit-gathering pagoda. This kind of precise control was frightening. However, he would not sit still and wait for death. With a cold snort, the short-haired young man held the purple destruction halo and swung it forward. Suddenly, rays of purple destruction halo rushed forward, and it was terrifying and dazzling. Rumble. The two forces intertwined together. The waterfall was extremely fierce, and it tore the sky apart. The purple destruction halo had a destructive aura. However, Lin Xian's great dragon sword soul was too powerful, and its attack power was far beyond that of the same level. Other than second Heaven Honorable Realm experts, no one could resist it. Rip! In an instant, the purple destruction halo that filled the sky was torn apart like a piece of cloth, and terrifying cracks appeared. How is this possible? The short-haired young man was terrified. How could his opponent's martial soul be so powerful? This aura had surpassed that of a first Heaven Honorable Realm expert. Could he be a second Heaven Honorable Realm expert? His heart trembled, and his mind went blank. He had never met such a powerful opponent in the same level as him. Bang! In the next instant, the sword chi condensed and slashed down quickly. No! The short-haired young man screamed, and he was so frightened that he could not stand still. He did not want to die. Buzz! The sword chi suddenly stopped, and it was only an inch away from the short-haired young man's body. The cold aura stimulated the short-haired young man's body, and he almost collapsed. Lin Xian defeated the short-haired young man easily, but he did not kill him. That was because killing was not allowed in Senma College. Scram, don't let me see you again. Lin Xian's voice was cold. The short-haired young man's face was gloomy. He had lost today, but he believed that Lin Xian would definitely not dare to kill him. Moreover, there were so many people here. If he left just like that, he would be tarnishing the reputation of the ravenous wolves. Don't be complacent. You won't have a good ending if you offend the ravenous wolves. You still dare to threaten me? Lin Xian smiled. It seemed that he had been merciful to the short-haired young man. Then he waved his hand, and the sword Qi became as soft as a whip, and it suddenly lashed down. Smack! The short-haired young man screamed, and was sent flying. Bang! He crashed into the wall beside him, and countless defensive lights were activated. Plop! The short-haired young man fell to the ground and spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked very miserable. Chapter 727. You dare to hurt me? The short-haired young man panted. You're dead meat. The greedy wolf gang won't let you off. If you don't get lost, I'll turn you into a dead wolf. Lin Xian raised his arm, and a terrifying sword radiance flashed. Brat, just you wait. This isn't over. The short-haired young man saw Lin Xian's actions, and his face turned ugly. He stood up with difficulty and quickly left the first floor. The surrounding crowd was shocked. This freshman is so strong. Not only was he strong, but he was also not afraid of the greedy wolf gang. However, the greedy wolf gang would not let him off easily. Lin Xian is so strong. The freshmen who were bullied were equally shocked. There were so many of them, but they could not defeat the short-haired young man. However, Lin Xian defeated him in one move. The gap was too big. Lin Xian, since you're so strong, why don't you form an organization and gather the freshmen so that we won't be bullied? Some freshmen said. They hoped to have a strong backer. Yes, yes. Hearing those words, those people also echoed in agreement. Lin Xian turned around and looked at the freshmen. Many of them were injured. I have the idea of forming an organization, but I want real martial artists, not cowards. You can be weak, but you can't be weak. If you're not strong enough, you can still cultivate. But once you lose that hot-blooded and fearless heart of courage, you can never find it again. Lin Xian said in a deep voice, We're not weak. The freshman retorted, Yes, what right do you have to say that about us? Everyone knows whether you're weak or not, but I'll give you a chance. Gather here in 3 days and prove your courage to me. This is your only chance to join my organization. Gather in 3 days? Why? The crowd was puzzled. Weren't you bullied by the greedy wolf gang? Fight back in 3 days. After that, Lin Xian turned around and entered the second floor. What? Retaliating against greed? Is there something wrong with Lin Xian's brain? Lunatic, he's definitely a lunatic. Many people sneered. Although the greedy wolf was greedy and cruel, he was extremely powerful. He was definitely not someone that a new student could shake. Sigh, this fellow is too arrogant. I'm afraid he's going to suffer a huge setback. Many senior students shook their heads and sighed. The freshmen were silent. They couldn't afford to offend Tan Lang, but they wouldn't admit it directly. They could only start mocking Lin Xian. Humph, this Lin Xian is too hateful. What right does he have to say that about us? That's right. Didn't you just defeat a senior? Do you really think you're number one among the freshmen? If he doesn't want us, we can go find someone else. I think that Zhou Su is very strong, definitely stronger than Lin Xian. That's right. There's also Morong, Qingcheng, Dongfang Phoenix, and the others. I think they'll all form societies. Moreover, they're all beauties. It's definitely a great blessing to be able to join such a society. Not only do we have to join the new student societies, we can also apply to join the older student societies. There are so many clubs in the academy. It's more than enough to accommodate us. That's right. Why are you still fighting the greedy wolves? Do you think the greedy wolves are so easy to fight? Many of the older powers don't dare to do so. He's just a freshman. What right does he have to say that? I think he just wants us to be cannon fodder. He definitely doesn't have good intentions. Humph, let's go. Many people felt uncomfortable being reprimanded by Lin Xian, so they said coldly. However, there were still some people whose eyes flickered. They seriously thought about Lin Xian's words and prepared to come here in 3 days. Lin Xian didn't know what these people were thinking. He did need some people, but what he wanted were those brave and powerful warriors, not students who were afraid of anything. Therefore, he asked those people to come here in 3 days. If no one came, then forget it. That would prove that those people were weak. If they dared to come, no matter what the outcome of this battle was, he would accept them. In fact, Lin Xian didn't even plan to let those people make a move. After putting this matter aside, Lin Xian went to the second floor. There were obviously fewer people on the second floor. After all, 1,000 spiritual value points for 2 hours was not something that anyone could afford. However, the spiritual energy here was much denser than above. Lin Xian estimated that it was more than twice as strong. Compared to his courtyard, it was nearly 3 times stronger. As expected of an intermediate spirit gathering array, it's indeed a good place. After finding an empty cultivation room, Lin Xian entered 1,000 spiritual value points and entered. There was also a small spirit gathering array in the cultivation room, so the spiritual energy was even stronger than outside. Lin Xian did not waste any time and cultivated with all his might. At the same time, he also consumed spirit wine, 1,000-year-old spirit herbs, and so on, allowing his cultivation speed to reach its maximum. 2 hours passed quickly, and Lin Xian came out with satisfaction. These 2 hours of cultivation were equivalent to more than a month of cultivation in the outside world. Although he had spent 1,000 spiritual value points, it was very worth it. After leaving the cultivation room, Lin Xian looked at the spiritual value card and sighed. He did not have much spiritual value points left, so he could only accept a few missions. Just as Lin Xian was accepting missions and earning spirit stones, Senma College was in an uproar. The reason was that Lin Xian had injured a member of the Greedy Wolf Gang in the Intermediate Spirit Gathering Tower and had said that he would lead the freshmen to counterattack in 3 days. Injuring a member of the Greedy Wolf Gang was already shocking enough. One had to know that the members of the Greedy Wolf Gang were cruel and vengeful people. Offending them would definitely not end well. However, not only did Lin Xian offend them, he even wanted to counterattack. This was going against the Greedy Wolf Gang. However, could a freshman like him defeat the Greedy Wolf Gang? No one thought that Lin Xian would succeed. Everyone thought that it was just a pretentious act. Perhaps he just wanted to increase his fame. After all, there were such people in the past. Many people treated this matter as a joke and did not take it to heart. However, the members of the Greedy Wolf Gang were furious. They would not allow anyone to step on their heads. Therefore, for the battle in 3 days, these people were prepared to teach Lin Xian a lesson. Moreover, they wanted to let everyone know how powerful the Greedy Wolf Gang was. In their eyes, they could only bully others. No one could bully them. Yan Qingyang and the others also heard the news. Many of the Dao Spirit Gang laughed. This Lin Xian is really an idiot. Without waiting for us to find him, he actually provoked the Greedy Wolf Gang himself. I'm afraid that kid is going to be unlucky this time. Just right, let the Greedy Wolf Gang get rid of that kid. Yan Qingyang and the others were ready to watch the show. It's not just them. Shen Yaotian, Zhou Su, and the other freshmen are also watching the show. They know that Lin Xian is going to be unlucky this time. Murong Qingcheng was a little worried. Although she knew that Lin Xian was strong, the notoriety of the greedy wolf gang was widespread in Senma College. Therefore, she was worried that Lin Xian would be at a disadvantage. When Lin Xian finally returned from his mission, Murong Qingcheng immediately went up to him. "Coming back with a beauty to accompany me. Life is really wonderful." Lin Xian looked at the beauty walking over and chuckled. "You're still in the mood to laugh at a time like this?" Murong Qingcheng was worried. Chapter 728. "You're still in the mood to joke at a time like this," Murong Qingcheng said worriedly. "Why? Did something big happen?" Lin Xian was puzzled. Murong Qingcheng sighed. He was so anxious, but the other party didn't know anything. "Of course it's about you and greed." "Oh, you mean that? Why? Did they surrender?" "Hey, can you speak normally?" Murong Qingcheng's face was slightly cold. "Do you know greed's strength? Do you know who they will send this time?" Seeing Lin Xian shake his head, Murong Qingcheng said angrily, "You don't know anything, and you dare to accept the challenge." "Don't worry," Lin Xian said with a smile. "Although I don't know their strength, I know that the people on the mysterious sovereign leaderboard won't make a move. After all, those people will care about their reputation. They won't make a move for a freshman. Otherwise, even if they win, their reputation will be tarnished. You know quite well." Murong Qingcheng snorted. "That's enough. As long as those people don't make a move, it's useless no matter how many others come." Lin Xian said confidently. "All right, it seems that you're confident," Murong Qingcheng said. "Since that's the case, I won't care. However, I have to remind you that although those people won't make a move against you now, once you enter the honorable realm in the future, I'm afraid that those people will come looking for trouble with you." Honorable realm, Lin Xian became even more confident. "I'm afraid that at that time, it's not certain who will be looking for trouble with whom." After bidding farewell to Murong Qingcheng, Lin Xian returned to the courtyard. This time, he had accepted 2 missions and obtained 5,000 spiritual value points. He could enter the Spirit Gathering Tower again. As for the battle 3 days later, he really didn't care about it. Now, with the improvement of his 4-season sword technique, a first Heaven Honorable Realm martial artist was no match for him. If he used his full strength, he could also contend against a second Heaven Honorable Realm martial artist. Therefore, Lin Xian was very indifferent. He continued comprehending the 4-season sword technique while cultivating the longevity art. 3 days passed quickly. On this day, Lin Xian came out of seclusion and headed for the Intermediate Spirit Gathering Tower. Along the way, many people pointed at him and whispered. Some people even chuckled. Lin Xian sneered in his heart. There was no need to explain now. Soon, the results would naturally slap them in the face. When he arrived at the Spirit Gathering Tower, he rolled his eyes. There were even more people here to watch the show, 5 times more than usual. It seemed that the news had already spread. At this moment, there were 8 new students standing in front of the passage, their bodies trembling slightly. On the opposite side was a group of martial artists in black. They had to severely punish Lin Xian this time, intimidate everyone, arrogant compared to the greedy wolf gang. "I'm afraid this is nothing," Lin Xian sneered. "Brother Mo, it's him." The short-haired young man beside him gritted his teeth and said, previously, he was beaten away by Lin Xian and almost became the laughingstock of the academy. This time, he had to save face. "Kid, I've said it before. If you offend the greedy wolf gang, you're dead meat. You and all of you are dead meat." The short-haired young man pointed at Lin Xian and the 8 people in the square. He was extremely arrogant. Kid, we're all students. I don't want to make things difficult for you. If you're willing to kneel down and kowtow 100 times and become the slaves of the greedy wolf gang, I'll spare you this time. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Li Mo's voice became cold. Did you hear that? Kneel down and kowtow, and call us Grandpa. The short-haired young man was extremely arrogant. He strode out and pointed at the 8 people in the square with a sinister smile. The 8 people were furious and their eyes were red. A warrior would rather be killed than humiliated. Bang! At this moment, a figure appeared in front of them. Then, a powerful spiritual force erupted and kicked the short-haired young man away. Boom! The short-haired young man crashed into the wall like a meteor, and the entire spiritual tower shook nonstop. This kick was too powerful. At least 5 or 6 of his ribs were broken. Lin Xian, it's Lin Xian. He actually attacked. The crowd was boiling. This was too crazy. He really attacked the greedy wolf gang. The 8 people in the square were also stunned. They felt the blood in their bodies boiling. There was so much nonsense. Now it was quiet. Lin Xian said with his hands behind his back, "Kid, you dare to attack? You're courting death." Li Mo was furious. "Go. As long as he doesn't die, you can beat him however you want." "Kid, you've angered me. No one can save you." Li Mo stared at Lin Xian, and his spiritual force erupted. Chapter 729. Lin Xian suddenly attacked and injured the short-haired young man again, causing a commotion. Of course, the people from the greedy wolf gang were the angriest. Following Li Mo's order, the 10 members of the greedy wolf gang behind him quickly rushed out. Each of them was as powerful as a primordial wolf. This time, the greedy wolf gang sent out a total of 12 people, with Li Mo as the leader. The short-haired young man had been kicked away by Lin Xian and had lost his ability to fight, so there were only 10 of them left. However, in everyone's opinion, the 10 of them were enough. One should know that the 10 of them were seniors. It would be easy for them to deal with a group of freshmen. Moreover, putting everything else aside, the greedy wolf gang had obtained a huge advantage in terms of numbers. Looking at the members of the greedy wolf gang, the 8 of them held their breaths. They knew that the result of this battle would be tragic, but they would not back down. "Can you deal with the 5 of you?" Lin Xian suddenly said. 5. Everyone was stunned, not understanding what he meant. However, the 8 of them came to their senses and kept nodding. 8 against 5. Even if they could not defeat them, they could at least hold them back. But what about the rest of them? Is Lin Xian going to fight them all alone? The 8 of them did not dare to imagine. However, they did not have time to think because Lin Xian had already made his move. He waved his palm, and the fierce wind from his palm split the 10 people who were rushing over into 2 groups. Each group was made up of 5 people. When the 8 of them saw that, they all moved and ran toward the 5 people closest to them. Their eyes shone with excitement as they used all their strength to stop the 5 people. Lin Xian, on the other hand, stopped the other 5. What? 1 against 5. Did he want to die? When everyone saw that, they immediately exclaimed, "Humph, what an idiot. Trying to be a hero at this time." The people from the Tao Spirit gang sneered. The challenge this time alarmed many people. The Tao Spirit gang, Murong Qingcheng, Shen Yaotian, and the others all came. When the 5 people from the greedy wolf gang saw that, they laughed ferociously. "Kid, did you get kicked in the head by a donkey? How dare you challenge the 5 of us? Cripple him and make him suffer a fate worse than death." The 5 of them grinned maliciously and quickly attacked. "Just the 5 of you are not worthy of me making a move," Lin Xian said coldly. Then he slapped his storage pouch and summoned the Crimson Dragon and the Snow White Monkey. "Yo, Ben Huang is here. The Crimson Dragon shouted, "Come, come, come. Ben Huang will teach you how to behave." The little Snow-White monkey also held the lightning whip and cheered excitedly. "Spirit Beast, you can even talk?" Everyone was stunned. They didn't expect Lin Xian to have such a magical spirit beast. But even so, it was impossible to stop the five of them. But in the next moment, they were stunned. The Crimson Dragon waved its claws, and while talking and laughing, it set up a formation that enveloped the five of them. Suddenly, countless wind blades, lightning bolts, and fireballs flew over with terrifying momentum. That power was enough to threaten a venerable one. The five of them were shocked and hurriedly resisted. "Little guy, you don't have to do anything. Let me do it," the Crimson Dragon roared. It had been holding back for too long and urgently needed to vent. Wuji, the little Snow-White monkey, was dissatisfied and jumped onto Lin Xian's shoulder. Seeing that the 10 people he sent out were all trapped and unable to do anything, Li Mo's expression was very ugly. He stared at Lin Xian and decided to attack. A powerful aura burst forth and swept in all directions. Li Mo's cultivation had reached the peak of first-level venerable. He was very powerful, and his attack caused everyone to exclaim in surprise. "Die, brat!" Li Mo clenched his fist and condensed a long flaming saber, which he slashed down. The flames burned fiercely, and the terrifying heat wave distorted the void. So terrifying. "I'm afraid that Lin Xian won't be able to take it. He's dead for sure." Many people sneered. However, in the next moment, the little Snow-White monkey's figure flashed, and it instantly appeared beside Li Mo and slapped down. Buzz. Li Mo's head was dizzy. He was stunned on the spot, and the flaming saber in his hand was quickly extinguished. Whoosh. Lin Xian took a step forward. Martial Path Sword Qi appeared on his 5 fingers. It was incomparably soft, like a willow ribbon. In an instant, it wrapped around Li Mo. The Martial Path Sword Qi seemed soft, but it contained the power of the Dragon Sword Soul, so it was incomparably spiritual. Crack! 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 The armor on Li Mo's body shattered, and the 5-sword Qi left terrifying sword wounds on his body. Blood spread wildly, and instantly dyed his body red. Li Mo struggled frantically, trying to release his martial soul. However, the moment he activated the spiritual power in his body, the 5-sword Qi became even tighter, and all of them pierced into his muscles. "If you dare to move again, I guarantee that your body will definitely become 5 pieces." Lin Xian sneered. Hearing this, Li Mo's body trembled, and he did not dare to move. He was very aggrieved. He was knocked out before he could release his martial soul, and now he was in this state. At the same time, he was extremely frightened because Lin Xian was too strange. He had subdued all of them in an instant. "Everyone stop!" Li Mo roared. His voice was like thunder. Immediately, everyone stopped and retreated to the sides. The 8 freshmen were shocked. They did not expect Lin Xian to win. The surrounding martial artists were even more shocked. It was too shocking. Lin Xian had defeated the Greedy Wolf Gang's team by himself. At this moment, screams came from the Crimson Dragon's array. It was so miserable that it made everyone's hair stand on end. The faces of the Greedy Wolf Gang members changed as they looked at Lin Xian in horror. Not only did a freshman subdue them, but he also defeated their team leader in one move. Such means were terrifying. "Stop, we admit defeat." Hearing the screams, Li Mo roared crazily. Lin Xian waved his hand, and the Crimson Dragon immediately stopped. It removed the array, revealing the 5 miserable members of the Greedy Wolf Gang. "This time, we admit defeat," Li Mo gritted his teeth and said. However, He had no choice but to lower his head in the current situation. Hearing this, everyone was shocked and speechless for a long time. The ferocious greedy wolf gang was defeated by a freshman. It was too shocking, especially the people from the Tao Spirit Association. Their eyes were wide open, unable to believe the scene in front of them. Is this guy really a freshman? Many people's hearts trembled. Murong Qingcheng was also surprised. She knew that Lin Xian would win, but she did not expect him to win so easily. Two mystical spirit beasts. How many secrets does this guy have? Admit defeat? That's it? Lin Xian sneered when he heard Li Mo's words. What do you want? Li Mo gritted his teeth and said, Humph, you are now a captive. Watch your attitude. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Immediately, the five-sword chi on Li Mo's body became even sharper, piercing Li Mo until he screamed again. What do you want? Li Mo said weakly. This time, he was no longer angry. How many spiritual value points were stolen from you? Lin Xian turned his head and asked, 1,700, 500. The 8 of them answered excitedly. They knew that Lin Xian was standing up for them. Did you hear that? The spiritual value points that were stolen from them will be returned double. Lin Xian looked at the greedy wolf gang and said sternly, Chapter 730. The spiritual value points that were stolen from them will be returned double. Lin Xian's words echoed in the passageway, causing the 8 people behind him to be extremely excited. Domineering, too domineering. He had vented his hatred. Originally, they had been robbed of their spiritual value points by the greed gang and thought that they would never be able to take revenge in this lifetime. Who would have thought that in just 3 days they would be able to trample the enemy under their feet? Furthermore, they had obtained double the spiritual value points. All of this was thanks to Lin Xian. Brother Xian, I'll follow you for the rest of my life. Yes, Brother Xian, accept us. The 8 of them were excited, and their bodies trembled. All right, the 8 of you will be my brothers from now on. Lin Xian was also filled with pride. He wanted to establish an organization that belonged to him within Senma College, the Dragon Sword Pavilion. Now, go and collect your spiritual value points. Yes, sir. The 8 of them roared excitedly. Just like before, they did not dare to make a move. However, it was different now. With Lin Xian, even if they were to face the ferocious greedy wolf gang, they would still dare to fight. Very quickly, they retrieved double the spiritual value points from the 12 members of the greedy wolf gang. As for Lin Xian, he took away their storage rings. During this period of time, there was a member of the greedy wolf gang who wanted to resist. In the end, when Lin Xian's sword spirit pierced into his body, no one dared to resist. Lin Xian did not feel uncomfortable doing this. This was a world where the strong preyed on the weak. If he was the one who failed today, he believed that his outcome would be even worse. Not only would he lose everything, but he would also lose face. Therefore, if he was not ruthless, the enemy would be ruthless to him. The surrounding people were shocked. Lin Xian was the first person who dared to bully the greedy wolf gang like this, especially the freshmen. They were all dumbstruck. They were so regretful that their intestines turned green. Previously, they had been bullied by the greedy wolf gang like the other 8. However, they did not have the courage to face it. They could only make sarcastic remarks in the crowd. But now Lin Xian had really done it. Not only did he defeat the team sent by the greedy wolf gang, he even helped the 8 of them take revenge. Double spiritual value points. Many people were envious. At that moment, a few thick-skinned people quickly stood out and shouted at Lin Xian, "Brother Xian, accept me." As soon as these words were spoken, many new students immediately stood up and looked at Lin Xian with eager eyes. Seeing those people's flattering performance, the 8 people beside him also showed disdain. Why didn't they come out when they were facing greed? Now that Lin Xian had won, they wanted to join. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Seeing these people jump out, Lin Xian sneered in his heart. He knew that these people had mocked him in the crowd before. Looking around, Lin Xian said in a clear voice, "You want to join? Sure. Do you see the greedy wolves? Go beat them up and you can join." What? Beat them up? Everyone was stunned, and their minds went blank. Those people were from the Greedy Wolf Association. Although they lost to Lin Xian this time, it didn't mean that they could be bullied, especially those new students who jumped out. They were so regretful that their intestines turned green. F***CK, why am I so cheap jumping out at this time? Many people felt bitter in their hearts. They didn't dare to hit the Greedy Wolf Association's people. However, if they retreated at this time, it would mean that they were greedy for life and afraid of death, opportunistic villains. At that time, they would become the target of everyone's contempt. Therefore, for a moment, they were in a dilemma. Humph, cowardly rats, I knew you wouldn't dare. The 8 disciples sneered. Hearing this, the faces of the cultivators who stood out turned red, and they slipped into the crowd dejectedly. Of course, there were also a few who weren't afraid of death, and really went up to kick the people from the Greedy Wolf Association. F***CK, kid, you're dead meat. Li Mo and the others roared crazily. Brother, from today onwards, we are brothers. Lin Xian said to the 3 of them. Brother Xian, we are the 3 Hao brothers. The eldest of the 3 said, Brother Xian, what is the name of our organization? Dragon Sword Pavilion. Then Lin Xian said in a clear voice, I, Lin Xian, today established the Dragon Sword Pavilion. I welcome all the outstanding and brave students to join. Hearing this, the new students who had just joined cheered while the others rolled their eyes. What a joke. At this juncture, who would dare to join? Lin Xian had beaten up the Greedy Wolf Association today. The other party would definitely retaliate, so no one dared to join at this time. Humph, what Dragon Sword Pavilion? Just watch. It won't be long before it disintegrates. The people from Dao Ling Association sneered. Yan Qingyang's face was also gloomy. The current situation made him very unhappy. Humph! He snorted and left with the people from Dao Ling Association. Murong Qingcheng was slightly stunned. She didn't expect Lin Xian to establish his own organization, which surprised her. Originally, she wanted to establish an organization in the academy and pull Lin Xian in, but now it seemed impossible. Humph, I won't admit defeat. Murong Qingcheng snorted. Since she couldn't pull Lin Xian in, she would join. Me too, I want to join too, Murong Qingcheng said. Then, she quickly walked to Lin Xian's side. What? Murong Qingcheng wants to join too? Everyone was stunned. Then their eyes burned with passion. However, at this juncture, they definitely wouldn't join. They could only wait for an opportunity in the future. When the 3 Hao brothers saw Murong Qingcheng, they exclaimed, Brother Xian is amazing. He managed to rope in a beauty so quickly. Why are you joining in the fun? Lin Xian was helpless. Why can't I join? Murong Qingcheng snorted. Then she walked in front of Li Mo and casually kicked him twice. How is it? I'm qualified, right? Hearing this, Li Mo wanted to cry, but had no tears. He even had the heart to die. Lin Xian had no choice but to agree. Then he let go of the members of the Greedy Wolf gang. Scram, don't let me see you again. Let's go. Li Mo stood up and quickly left with his group of underlings. However, he secretly swore in his heart that he would definitely take revenge. All right, let's find a place for the meeting. Lin Xian opened a cultivation room on the first floor and let everyone in. This time, things were going quite smoothly. Not only did he teach the Greedy Wolf gang a lesson, but he also recruited many students. His Dragon Sword Pavilion finally settled down in Senma College. Among the 11 new students, 6 of them were at the first level of the Venerable Realm, and 5 of them were half-step Venerable Realm cultivators. They could be said to be geniuses in the outside world, but in Senma College they were very ordinary. That was because there were too many monsters here. Any one of them was at the first level of the Venerable Realm. However, Lin Xian didn't underestimate them. Being able to enter Senma College was enough to show that they were extraordinary. Moreover, these people's aptitudes weren't bad. They could be said to be geniuses. It was just that in terms of resources, they weren't as good as those monsters. Lin Xian believed that when these people grew up, they would definitely be powerful. The 3 Hao brothers, Hao De, Hao Er, and Hao San, had all reached the first level of the Venerable Realm. Their strength was not bad. As for the other 8 people, 3 of them had reached the first level of the Venerable Realm. They were Song Ming, Liang Wei, and Wang Li. Lin Xian gave them some pills and told them to accept missions to earn spiritual value points and increase their cultivation. At the same time, Lin Xian also gave them some spiritual herbs and told them to collect more on a daily basis. Chapter 731. Boss, why are you collecting these spiritual herbs? Song Ming was puzzled. It can't be for alchemy, right? Liang Wei guessed. Correct. Lin Xian smiled. But we don't have an inscription master. Everyone scratched their heads. Don't worry, I'll do it, Lin Xian said. Your boss is an all-rounder. Hearing this, everyone's eyes widened, and they were extremely excited. Even Morong Qingchang was surprised. She never knew that Lin Xian knew how to refine pills. This guy is too mysterious. Morong Qingchang gritted her teeth. All right, you guys go and take action. I also want to break through to the Venerable Realm as soon as possible. Boss, it's not possible to break through in a short period of time using the Spirit Gathering Array. Wang Li said, I know 2 ways that can help you break through in a short period of time. Oh, which 2? Lin Xian asked. The first is the little spirit pill. It can allow warriors below the Venerable Realm to directly increase their cultivation by 1 level. The second is the Flaming Mountain. It contains terrifying spiritual energy and can definitely allow warriors to break through in a short period of time. However, that place is very dangerous. If boss wants to go, you must be well prepared. Little spirit pill, Flaming Mountain, Lin Xian whispered. Then he took out the spirit tablet and found the introduction of the little spirit pill on it. 20,000 spiritual value points. Lin Xian frowned. It was really expensive. However, this method was feasible. He pondered in his heart. He was currently at the peak of the spirit detecting realm. Using the little spirit pill, he could directly reach the half-step Venerable Realm. Then he would head to the Flaming Mountain to cultivate and break through to the Venerable Realm in one go. This was definitely the fastest way to break through at the moment. All right, let's do it. Lin Xian's eyes lit up. I'll go and break through. You guys should also hurry up and increase your cultivation. Then, everyone left the Spirit Gathering Tower. How did you get 20,000 spiritual value points? Morong Qingcheng asked. Do you want me to lend you some? Forget it. If I owe you a debt, I won't be able to refuse your requests in the future. Lin Xian shook his head. Humph, you don't know how to appreciate my kindness. Forget it if you don't want it. Morong Qingcheng snorted. I want to see how you will obtain 20,000 spiritual value points. 20,000 spiritual value points was not a small amount for the current freshmen. Even if they were to do missions, they would have to do at least a dozen of them. This didn't include the time consumption of the journey, so according to conventional methods, it was impossible to complete it in a short period of time. What Lin Xian lacked the most right now was time. Can I completed in one go? Lin Xian pondered. Then he walked towards the mission hall to see if there were any high-difficulty missions. Lin Xian skipped past the ordinary missions and the special missions on the black mission crystal that was 300 meters tall. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows as he discovered something. Operation Beheading. The Hunyuan Hand, Tu Tian, has committed many evil deeds and killed countless innocent people. Now, a kill order has been issued. Whoever obtains Tu Tian's head will be rewarded with 27,000 spiritual value points. So high. Lin Xian's interest was piqued. However, when he saw the information below, he frowned. Below the mission, there were 3 golden stars. Behind them was an introduction. Lin Xian discovered that this Hunyuan Hand, Tu Tian, was actually a second-level venerable. Furthermore, he had a top-grade spirit artifact in his hand. It could be said that he was extremely powerful. After pondering for a long time, Lin Xian decided to accept the mission. What? You want to accept the beheading mission? The deacon of the mission hall was stunned. He stared at Lin Xian intently without stopping. No matter how he looked at it, the other party did not have a powerful cultivation and was a freshman. That's a 3-star mission. Have you read the information on it? Yes, Lin Xian said. The difficulty of a 3-star mission is very high. Furthermore, the Hunyuan Hand is extremely ferocious and has killed more than 1 disciple of the academy. Even so, you still want to accept it? Accept, Lin Xian said firmly. Since you insist, all right. The deacon sighed. However, he still allowed Lin Xian to accept the mission. The surrounding students were discussing in low voices. Many of them were mocking and ridiculing him. This guy, has he gone crazy from thinking about spiritual value points? That's right. The Hunyuan Hand is a second-level venerable. I'm afraid that only those experts on the mysterious venerable leaderboard can deal with it. That guy obviously hasn't entered the mysterious venerable leaderboard, yet he still dares to accept it. Isn't that arrogant freshman? I heard that he hasn't even reached the venerable realm. What? Everyone was shocked. Then they sneered. He's definitely dead. The Hunyuan Hand was in Lion Moon City, which was not far from Heavenly Pool City. There were 5 cities around Heavenly Pool City, and Lion Moon City was one of them. Lin Xian sped all the way to Lion Moon City. However, he did not enter directly. Instead, he stopped in the forest outside the city. Then he summoned the Crimson Dragon, and the 2 of them began to discuss countermeasures. The reason why Lin Xian dared to accept this mission was because the Crimson Dragon had mastered many formations. With his strength and the power of the formation, he should be able to kill the Hunyuan Hand. However, this formation needed to be properly set up. Kid, I have a killing formation in my hands called the 10 Directions Remnant Light Formation. If I can set it up, I'll definitely be able to kill that Hunyuan Hand. The Crimson Dragon patted its chest and said, Are you sure? Lin Xian stared at the Crimson Dragon and asked. This Rizalong was often unreliable. He had to ask clearly, F***CK. Kid, what do you mean? How dare you doubt Ben Huang? The Crimson Dragon was unhappy. Just you wait. When Ben Huang sets up the 10 Directions Remnant Light Formation, you'll definitely be scared to death. However, this formation's level is quite high and it requires a large amount of materials to set it up. Take whatever you want. Lin Xian threw out the storage ring. Then, the Crimson Dragon took out a large pile of medium spiritual stones and many strange materials from the storage ring. Fortunately, Lin Xian was rich and had all kinds of strange materials. Otherwise, it would be impossible for anyone else to set it up. Then, the Crimson Dragon began to set up the formation carefully. This formation was very complicated and needed to be inscribed with formation runes. Moreover, each formation rune was extremely complicated and could not be made a single mistake. Even with Lin Xian's knowledge and cultivation, he felt dizzy after seeing the inscription formation. One day later, the Crimson Dragon finally finished setting up the 10 Directions Remnant Light formation. Kid, you don't believe me, right? Do you want to come and see? The Crimson Dragon said with a provocative look. Okay, I'll take the opportunity to see the power of this formation. Lin Xian walked over. As soon as he entered the formation, the Crimson Dragon laughed sinisterly and quickly activated the formation. In the next moment, an unusually fierce, murderous aura appeared in the surroundings. Rays of terrifying sword chi slashed toward Lin Xian. At that moment, Lin Xian's hair stood on end. The power of wind and thunder surged behind him, and the wind and thunder wings appeared. He moved quickly, leaving behind an afterimage. This formation is so terrifying. Lin Xian came out of the formation with lingering fear. Although he had only been there for a moment, the terrifying power made him fearful. The sword chi formed by the formation was not weaker than his sword chi at all. It could definitely threaten a second-level venerable. This is nothing. The Crimson Dragon was proud. Kid, let me tell you, this is only the simplified version of the 10 Directions Remnant Light formation. The real one can definitely kill all 10 directions. It's more than enough to deal with that mixed yuan hand. Okay, when the time comes, I'll lure him into the formation. You control the formation, and we'll attack together, Lin Xian said. Then, the Crimson Dragon set up an illusion formation to hide the 10 Directions Remnant Light formation. A man and a dragon quickly rushed toward Lion Moon City. Chapter 732. Wang Shi was a disciple of the Wang family. He got out of bed early in the morning and went to the martial arts field to practice. Not long ago, he obtained the heart of the blood flame rat in the forest. After returning, he stimulated his bloodline and broke through to the half-step honorable realm. As long as he worked hard, he believed that he would soon reach the honorable realm. I must be like my benefactor and become a powerful martial artist. A figure appeared in Wang Shi's mind. It was a young man about 18 or 19 years old. He wore a blue robe and held a golden bow in his hand. He looked like a god of war. It was that figure who easily killed several blood flame rats. Not only did he save their lives, but he also left the hearts of the blood flame rats to them. It was because of those hearts that the Wang family was able to create several half-step honorables this time. I must become strong and protect the family. I can't let the Blood Yuan gang bully the family. Clang, clang, clang. Suddenly, a series of urgent bell chimes rang out. Oh no, it's the bell of war. The family is in danger. Is the Blood Yuan gang here? Wang Shi's expression changed, and he quickly rushed to the central square. Not only him, but countless disciples of the Wang family also gathered quickly. Uncle Wang, what's the matter? Wang Shi asked anxiously. The Blood Yuan gang. The Blood Yuan gang is here. They want us to hand over the elixir pavilion. What? Damn the Blood Yuan gang. They're attacking our family's important business. Wang Shi's small face was cold. The disciples of the Wang family nearby were furious. The Wang family was good at alchemy. It turned out that they were a big family in Lion Moon City. However, since the Blood Yuan gang came, the Wang family was targeted and suppressed everywhere. Now, the Blood Yuan gang wanted to swallow the Wang family's property. They tried their best to resist, but many of their elders were killed. They couldn't resist at all, because the Blood Yuan gang had a powerful and cruel leader, Mixed Yuan Hand Tu Tian. Not only had his cultivation reached the second-level honorable realm, but he also had a top-grade spiritual artifact in his hand. He was very powerful. Humph! Even if we die, we can't hand our family over to the Blood Yuan gang. Everyone was furious. Ha ha ha! Wang family, have you thought about it? Suddenly, a burst of wild laughter came from the sky, rolling over like thunder. Then, a figure appeared in the sky. It was a large man with a tall and sturdy figure. He had a full beard and a vicious glint in his eyes. He was like an ancient, ferocious beast, staring cruelly at the people of the Wang family below. Behind him were more than a dozen first-rank supremacies who were looking down with mocking expressions. Countless members of the Blood Yuan gang appeared and completely surrounded the Wang family. Old man Wang, have you made up your mind? I don't have much patience. Mixed Yuan Han Tu Tian said coldly, My Wang clan's foundation will never be given to you. Just give up. A white-haired old man appeared. He was the patriarch of the Wang clan. Stubborn, seeing the other party's resistance. Heaven Slaughter's face immediately sank. Old man, I saw that your Wang clan has some alchemy skills, so I didn't kill you. Do you really think I'm so benevolent? Now, I'll give you a chance. Either you surrender to me and become a subordinate of the Blood Yuan gang. Either all of you die, and the entire Wang family will disappear from Lion Moon City. You better think it through. Heaven Slaughter's eyes shone fiercely, and his body emitted a shocking murderous aura. Old man, you better think it through. Thousands of lives of the Wang clan are in your hands. Make your choice quickly, or your Wang clan will be annihilated. The experts of the Blood Yuan gang threatened coldly. You've gone too far. Do you really think my Wang clan is easy to bully? Below, the people of the Wang clan were furious. The patriarch of the Wang clan was also angry. His robe fluttered, and he quickly rushed into the sky like a meteor. You've gone too far. I'll fight it out with you. The patriarch of the Wang clan quickly rushed out and attacked Heaven Slaughtering. Humph! You're overestimating yourself. Heaven Slaughtering snorted coldly and quickly threw out a punch to meet the patriarch of the Wang clan. Terrifying energy exploded like a demonic cloud, spreading in all directions. The patriarch of the Wang clan and Heaven Slaughtering were fighting. Bang, bang. However, not long after, a low sound was heard. The patriarch of the Wang clan flew out and smashed the pavilion below. A terrifying deep pit was formed on the ground. Patriarch, the people of the Wang clan were terrified and rushed over. The patriarch of the Wang clan struggled to get up from the ruins. He was covered in blood, his face was pale, and there was a terrifying palm print on his chest. It almost pierced through him. You don't know what's good for you. You want to fight me with your strength? Heaven Slaughtering sneered. Do you believe that I'll annihilate the Wang clan now? Hearing this, the patriarch of the Wang clan trembled, and then spat out a few mouthfuls of blood. I'll fight it out with you. A middle-aged warrior couldn't help but rush up quickly. There's really someone who isn't afraid of death. In the sky, a burly man with a long saber stood out and waved his saber. The saber radiance was like a rainbow and instantly cut the middle-aged warrior in half. The corpse fell and blood splattered all over the ground. The horrifying and bloody scene stimulated the people of the Wang clan. No, the people of the Wang clan screamed. Many young disciples cried bitterly, while the middle-aged warriors and elders clenched their fists tightly and stared angrily. They couldn't accept it. They couldn't accept it. At this moment, they were full of regret. If they had strong strength, the other party wouldn't have dared to provoke them. Moreover, as an alchemy family, they had made friends with many forces. But now, no one came to help them, which made them feel cold. Does God want to destroy the Wang clan? The elders shouted to the sky. If there's no other way, we can only agree to join the Blood Yuan gang. Otherwise, I'm afraid our Wong clan will be destroyed. Another elder sighed. No, we can't join the Blood Yuan gang. The patriarch of the Wong clan gasped. The Blood Yuan gang is cruel and greedy. Do you think we'll have a good end if we join them? We'll become their slaves. That's a real life worse than death. Everyone listen. Cover the escape of the young disciples and take away the pill patterns. We can't let these things fall into the hands of the Blood Yuan gang. Old thing, since you're courting death, then there's no need for the Wong clan to exist. Heaven Slaughtering Two's face was ferocious. After talking for so long, the other party was still stubborn and wanted to fight to the death. He was disdainful because the other party was not qualified to fight with him. Kill. Don't leave a single one alive. Heaven Slaughtering Two waved his hand, and immediately 10 first-level venerables in the sky moved out. Countless members of the Blood Yuan gang rushed over. These people were like fierce beasts and hungry wolves, quickly pouncing on the people of the Wong clan. Cover the young disciples. Run. The elders of the Wong clan rushed to the sky. They must break out. Run. Puff. Puff. In an instant, countless terrifying attacks fell, and the disciples of the Wong clan were killed. Blood and corpses splattered everywhere, and all kinds of screams and cries were heard. This scene had alarmed the entire Lion Moon City, but no one came to help. Many elders roared, crazily. At this time, they hoped that a peerless expert would come to the Wong clan and save them. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.